The growing calls across the nation to defund the police.
To end policing as we know it.
Off the charts violence in New York City. 11 people shot in just 8 hours on
This is
Sunday.
about the police officers who every single day put on that uniform and they run towards danger when we run away from it.
Guns up
and giddy up. That sounded kind of corny. I gotta work on my giddy up. I gotta work on that a little bit. Almost a year into the show, and we haven't quite perfected the guns up, giddy up just yet. But we'll get there. You think by year 2 we'll have it?
It's a work in progress.
It's a work in progress.
Anything's possible when you believe in yourself, Mike.
We're all about positive thinking here at the Failure to Stop Show, which is the #1 show where law enforcement meets culture. We actually have 4 shows, soon to be 5 a week. The one that you're listening to right now is our Friday show. It's kind of like the flagship one. It's where we started, where we're leading from the front here on Fridays, where we break down cases, past and present. We are in the true crime category because we are, I don't know, what's our combined policing experience? Like 18 years? You had 8 on, I had 11, 19, 18, 19 years of experience. And we bring what we think is a little bit of a unique angle to the true crime genre, because we actually have been through many of these experiences and we can kind of shade in some of this from a police perspective. So we take great pride in that. We thank you for listening to the show. Today, we are going to be joined by another police officer, and she has 5 years of experience in Alabama law enforcement, Keelin Darby, who is advocating and educating the world about her husband's case, Ben Darby, who on April 3rd, 2018, was involved in a shooting in what could be described as a suicide by cop type scenario. And we're going to get into all those details. There is a lot to this case, but fast forward to now, he is in prison currently serving and appealing a 25-year sentence for murder in the state of Alabama. And so we have, boy, oh boy, do we have a lot to get into with this case and dissect it, the good, the bad, the questionable. We're going to try to get into it all, and we will have Keelin on the show with us to help us walk through this case. So stick around for it. In the meantime, we want to say thank you to the Wolfpack, those that are loyal listeners to the show. Let's go right to the reviews and see what people are saying to give credit to the Wolfpack where it's due. Tansey, can you see these ones? You want to jump in on the reviews?
Staying hard while staying cool. This show is about as cool as popping a rip pack in your mouth while being strangled by a man wearing a panty mask on a ghost bed. 5 stars. Again,
inside jokes right there, folks.
Again, all of our reviews always include our ad reads. And I don't know if our publicist can do something with that, but name another podcast that they literally mention their ad reads, because we have the best fucking ad reads.
We do. I agree. They're sometimes borderline questionable, but they're the best. ZPAP13 says may cause injury, 5 stars. This show is side splitting, but I would not listen if you're lifting. Laugh so hard in the middle of a set, I drop the barbell on myself. At least if I die recovering in my bed, my ghost bed will earn its name.
There it is. There it is.
There it is.
He's lifting like 15 pounds.
What kind of a bell or barbell would he be using?
I don't know.
50.
Like, who lifts barbells anymore?
That exposes Tansey for not going to the gym lately, because he would know that a regular barbell weighs 45 pounds.
Oh.
You haven't been going to the gym, have you?
Well, none of your business. I'm trying to be a Sports Illustrated swimsuit model. So,
well, I'll tell you what, if whoever's on the cover of that one that I've seen out in pop culture is the ideal swimsuit model, you are definitely the ideal male model.
I mean, that's kind of where we're trending. It's good for guys like me.
Shirt off.
But man, I'm just glad things were different when I was a teenager, sitting in the bathroom looking at Sports Illustrated.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say. Here's another review from Bonehead the Symbiont.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. From a former cop who's turned to the dark side. Howdy, this Howdy. Let me, now I've got to reread it. Howdy. This podcast is one of the few sources of truth when it comes to police-related events. We all know the news media can't be trusted. And speaking of news, I was recently cured of an unconscious but false belief that excessive force by police is more pervasive than it actually really is. This was thanks to an old video of Mike's where he debated police overreach activists or whatever. Look, I've been a cop and I'm married to a.
You didn't get the whole. No, I did get the whole review. Apple Podcast just cuts it off. I think there's a limit. But that story was riveting. You got me crying over here, laughing already.
Ever. I didn't know that was physically possible.
Yeah,
to make
you
a
could
voice like
you
that.
could voice act in a,
I don't know
in
where
a
it came
cartoon
from.
movie with animals and bugs and stuff. Like you
I
could be
blacked
one of
out.
the bugs.
What
That
happened?
was pretty good. A bug from Alabama. Speaking of Alabama, how many super chats for Eric to take off his shirt? That's a valid question. How much
Dude,
money?
listen,
How
I
much
know
money needs to come in super chats for you to strip down?
fucking $100. I'll do this whole show without a shirt on.
$1.
I feel
But-
like it would need to be night shift that you do that. It would take away from the seriousness of
It
what we're going
would.
to end up talking
Like we're talking about a fucking murderer here, and his wife is on, or an alleged murderer, and I'm sitting here with my nipples out. It would be embarrassing. My
I
little
don't
nipple
know if
rings.
That match is very
I'm
good.
just kidding. I don't have nipple rings. I'm not like Mike.
Well, we have a nipple cam, by the way. I don't know. It's not. Oh man, he had it set up on an old computer. We had a nipple cam for me because I wear this one shirt that my nipples always get hard in, and I don't even know why. It's a fabric. It must be like a genetic thing. But anyway, Mud Dog Yoda, 5 stars for days. As a loyal listener from the beginning, this show used to be the highlight of my week, like a crackhead jonesing for the next hit. I would never be the same until the next episode dropped. But the answers to my prayers came with all of the added content, and now there is no other podcast that I turn to for my fix. Just to hear the sultry tones of Eric's skate milk daddy, Tansey, makes this fellow North Carolina LEO giddy. As I booty bump rip packs, I can always stay rock hard while staying cool all night long on my ghost bag. Guns up, giddy up. Booty bump rip packs. Oh my gosh, Craig Gregor's
you son of
shirts off.
a bitch.
Okay, let's before we get it serious, it's time, dude. You
I
gotta
gotta
do it
on
right
this
now.
show.
No, he said 100. He said 100. That's $99.99. That's not 100.
Oh, that's true.
No, we've got a total of 100 though. We already had a super chat.
No, that was a total of 100 after. Like somebody gave and that was one that was like fucking Danish money.
You're gonna take the shirt off. That's happening. We've already made over $100. But before we got to do that before we get serious. So you have to take it off while I read the last review.
That was the last review.
I said before.
That what we read for.
We read 4?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, crap.
Let's do the one where he does the voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's
wait,
do
reread it.
your voice with your shirt off.
Oh, but we can't really see it with that review up.
It's happening. It's happening. Woo-wee! Oh, wow. Oh, my. Maybe you have been going to the gym, my friend. Woo!
Hey guys, welcome to Fair Stop. Hell yeah. Let's get this party started. I heard somebody smoked a bitch and I'm ready to talk about it. This woman is like, I'm not coming on this show.
Keelin's out of the studio now. She left.
I'm not
She's
gonna do
gone.
it.
She's never coming on the show.
All right.
Wow. That was awesome. That was worth the super chat. I hope you guys are pleased. Okay, that's getting awkward now. Stop it.
Okay.
I'm going to leave the show if you keep doing that. Oh my gosh.
Now Tuesday you have to be shirtless the whole show though.
The whole show?
Yeah.
No.
Craig sent $10 more.
This is not a Jack sesh.
Greg sent 10. Sarah sent 5.
Yeah, dude.
All right. Well, if you guys are listening to the show, if that's not enough motivation for you to go subscribe to our YouTube channel, I don't know what is. I really
Hey, don't fucking shame my nipples. They're small nipples, man.
All right. So how can you support the show? That obviously super chats is one way if you're live on YouTube, but you can also get merch at failuretostop.com. You can become a member on YouTube, which has its own perks, including a private Discord where we hang out. So there's some perks there. And you can obviously support our sponsors. The first of which for today's show is Euro Optic. And I'm pulling up the ad read now. My internet's bad. All right, Euro Optic. We are appreciative. Listen, guys, anytime you have a show like ours, we just had Eric get naked and act like he's from Alabama. Okay. Do you know how hard it is to sell ad reads for a show like this? We're already talking about law enforcement issue that everybody wants to defund in the first place, let alone whatever Eric just did. It's not easy.
If you buy a Euro Optic and then watch the first part of that video, it's a whole new different look.
Yeah, look at Eric's nipples through a Euro Optic, and it's going to really enhance the experience.
And then pull the trigger from whatever you're sitting behind with that Euro Optic and put me in my misery.
So we are appreciative of sponsors of the show, and today's show is brought to you by EuroOptic.com. It has been around for over 20 years, based in central Pennsylvania. They are a veteran-owned online retailer of optics, firearms, hunting, and outdoor apparel. They carry brands like Vortex, Swarovski, Night Force, I don't even know how to say that brand, Sitka, Beretta, CZ, and tons more. The employees of Euro Optic are hunters, precision shooters, and outdoor enthusiasts. So when you call them up, you'll be talking to industry-leading experts that have firsthand knowledge of their products. Euro Optic has teamed up with Vortex Optics to bring an incredible offer to the members of the law enforcement, military, and first responder communities. All you have to do is head over. Now, this is if you are law enforcement, military, first responders with creds. Go to EuroOptic.com/VTXLE. Create your account, submit your creds through their secure form. And once you're approved, that's going to get you 40% off MSRP on nearly all of their Vortex products. Additionally, you have access to discounts, most other brands as well. So they're supporting us. So if you want to support the show, you can support them. At least let them know you're listening by heading over to EuroOptic.com/FTS and browse
everybody. That's for everybody. That's for everybody. Peasants out there that you non-first responders. You want to get some deals. You want to get that same deal. If you're a hunter, if you're a real redneck, head over to EuroOptic.com, baby, /FTS. Get you one of those scopes. Get you a scope, baby.
I think we need a name for that character. Alabama Daddy.
The Alabama Skate Daddy.
The Alabama Daddy.
I don't know. I don't even know if I could recreate that.
That's Skeeter Daddy right there.
I was in the moment, dude.
Skeeter Daddy.
Skeeter Daddy.
Skeeter Daddy.
All right. Touche. I like it.
All right. So that's the housekeeping, guys. Appreciate it. And we have one more sponsor for the show. We'll talk about them later. You know who it is, so we'll get into it. But
you know what time it is.
I've actually received more requests to cover this situation than probably any other. You guys know that we had covered on one of the breakdowns the Degas case out of California, and we've kind of kept up with that. And this is similar in the fact that a police wife is the person vying for, fighting for, advocating for, educating people around her about her husband's case. Only in this case, she also is a police officer as well. So grab a drink, get ready. I don't even know how long this is going to be. I would say somewhere between the next hour and a half to 2 hours. So strap in. Don't strap on, but strap in. And we'll get into this. So let's welcome Keelin Darby to the show.
Holy shit. Is that Sarah Kelch?
We're doing this already. This is happening.
She looks just like Sarah Kelch.
All right, let's.
Oh, Sarah. What's up?
Pretty similar. Hey guys, how you doing?
I see it.
Except
Thank you
Sarah's
for hanging out.
husband's not in prison. So, oh, is that too soon?
Too soon?
Oh, I blacked out. I blacked out. Sorry. That was a dark joke.
We were hanging out with Keelin a little bit before the show and tried to warn her a little bit that we're slightly irreverent on our podcast. Keelin, a serious question. Are you used to this? Is that sort of dark humor a piece of what you've been experiencing the last 9 months, with other cops? Are you still going to work every day as a cop?
Yeah, so I go to work. I work 312, so I go to work, 3 to 4 days a week, and still do my job. There's certain people that I find I use a little bit of humor with just to cope with this whole situation. But no one's had the gonads to come up and say something to me because I'll probably go off on them just because it is a little a touchy subject. But
Do you
there's certain
get-
people
do
that I
you-
can.
Do you get any like locker room banter? I don't know. Like, I feel like where I worked, it didn't matter what happened. Like, I feel like if my wife would have died or something crazy, I think after a while there would still be some like weird, dark banter in the locker room. They'd still hit me with it. That may be just my department. Is yours the same way?
I'm sure there is behind my back, you know.
Oh, okay.
But like I said, there's a few people that I'm able to just let
Kinda
loose
joke
with,
with.
and, you know, joke around with,
Sure.
as a coping mechanism. But again, you know, he's in
Well, you
prison.
gotta have
so-
that.
I know.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, you
fine.
have to. You have. I mean,
What would you say? What would you say are your primary coping mechanisms right now? Just given that before anybody even knows the situation, which we kind of already, everybody that's listened up to this point knows, the basics that your husband is in prison and you're appealing a 25-year sentence, right? So what are your primary coping mechanisms right now?
So just being outside, going to the gym, hiking. We have a dog, so play with him a lot, and then hang out with about five to seven different people that I'm really close with that are very aware of the situation, and just be able to bounce stuff off of them and get their perspective to see if I'm thinking about something the right way, or, you know, get advice of, hey, how do you think I should handle this, or something like that. But a lot of when I'm not at work, I'm not at work. I don't check my work email. I try not to talk shop. I mean, I talk about Ben's story with everyone. It's just, that's my life now. But when I'm at work, I try to disconnect from work as much as possible.
Now, do you get to talk to Ben a lot, often, or how does that
Yeah.
work?
So he can call me as much as he wants to, as long as he has money on his account, but I can't contact him. So, which sucks, because there's
Yeah.
sometimes where something happens and I need to tell him, you know, and I'm at the mercy of him calling
Right.
me. So the only way that I can schedule something to talk to him is they do like a Zoom FaceTime. So I can FaceTime with him and I can schedule that, but he schedules all the phone calls. So, but I talk to him every day.
How do you get money on his account? Is that something like, are you able to set that up? Are people allowed to donate? I mean, do you have a lot of people donating?
Yeah, so there's several people who donate to his books, and there's an app, and you have to get his inmate number and all that to set that up, and then people just we have a fundraiser link through Fund the First, so people donate to that, and that just goes straight to his legal fees. Or people just come up and, hey, here's money for this, or here's money to, you know, however you want to use it, or towards his legal fees, or whatever they want. But yeah, we've had a ton of support, especially now that I'm able to go public and actually talk about the case since the gag order is done. Support has been huge over the last month. So, and today's actually 9 months to the day that he's been in prison. So, you know, it sucks.
Do you find yourself ever at this point not thinking about this? I guess. I mean, is there any moment of the day, like, do you look forward to going to work because at least at work it gives you a break from what I would imagine to be a constant thinking about, you know, what you guys are going through right now?
Yeah, I mean, work, I don't think about our situation at work because I have to be focused on, you know, the calls and the guys and everything at hand. So like work days and then going to church and stuff like that, spending time with family, those are kind of escapes unless it's brought up. But yeah.
How do you go to work and keep a positive attitude? I feel like if a community put my husband in prison, I would have a hard time serving that community. What keeps you going?
So the department that I work for is in the neighboring county to Huntsville. So it's not directly the community or the members that put him in prison or decided that. So that's a little bit easier. But I think it doesn't come down to, yes, the jury made that decision, but I think the major issues come to three main players from Madison County, being the district attorney's office, and then what the judge allowed and what the judge didn't allow.
Okay.
You know, it really lies, I think, on them.
Well, I can't wait to get into that. I can't wait to get into what happened. I guess maybe we should probably tell a story, because I have not looked into the story. I haven't done a whole lot of research, Mike.
Okay.
This was on you, so I'm probably just gonna have questions as we go through. So
Well, let
forgive
me before we get into the actual incident itself and take it from there, obviously you guys are married now, but you weren't always. So how did you guys, were you both already cops when you met each other, or what was the context of your relationship going back, and how much experience do you have as a cop? How much experience did he have as a cop? All sort of like leading up to this call.
Okay, so we met at college. We went to college together. We were both criminal justice majors, and then we worked for the college security department. So we knew each other through just classes and work. We didn't start dating until senior year. I was just focused on school, and I didn't really care about getting into a relationship. And so we graduated in 2015. We got married in October of 2016, but we both became cops in February of 16. So for each of our departments, I think there was like a 2-week gap between he starting at Huntsville and me starting at my department. And then he went through his own academy that Huntsville hosts, where I went through a state academy, which is like a farm basically that different departments just push into. So we went through the academies during the same time, went through FTO during the same time, hit the street at the same time, just different departments. And then I have 6 years experience currently, currently a sergeant on the SWAT team for our department. And then Ben had 18 months before he was taken off the street. But he did have 5 years before he resigned. So I guess that's
so. He was a cop for 18 months when the shooting happened.
Yeah, at the time of the shooting, he had 18.
And that's
months.
including FTO time.
Yes.
So he was a rookie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of people bring that up because they say, "Oh well, Pegues and Beckles had so much more experience than they did." Well, Pegues was only one academy class behind Ben, so she didn't really have that much more experience because they were only separated by one academy. Beckles did have a couple years, but I think it's important to know that it's obvious that just because you have so many years experience doesn't directly correlate with how good of a police officer you are.
Well, there's a lot of people that don't know. I don't know who Piggies or Beckles. Am I saying that right? Piggies, like as in a pig?
Piggies. That's what I said.
Piggies. Yeah.
It's funny because my piggy bank is actually named Piggies. And I'm not even kidding.
Imagine that. Yeah, there you go.
But before we get into Piggies, and the other name was with Beckles, nobody knows who these people are. I don't even know who these people are or what this case, like how they are in this case. So again, like you'll have to elaborate more on those things because I think there's a lot of people in here that are like, "What?"
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we have to get to that. I'm just curious, like what your guys' relationship was and experience was. So, just walk us through the call, in general. And I already know that I have some questions about that. And then that will lead us into maybe running through some of the body cam footage, but run us through what happened that day or leading up to it.
Okay, so April 3rd, 2018 was the day of the incident. It was a call in the afternoon. I don't know what time it was, but it was between 2 and 5 that afternoon. Huntsville second shift is busy, so everyone's running calls. There's no downtime. And
so Huntsville is that inner city, or is it what's the demographic of Huntersville?
It's huge. Like I think it's now the biggest city in the state.
Okay.
The demographics are all over the place.
Is it like more of like an inner city? Is it more of like trailer park? Is it more like rural homes? Is it?
I'd say some of it's inner city. It's kind of a conglomeration of all of it. Yeah. So dispatch received a call from Jeffrey Parker, and he called and said, "I'm fixing to blow my brains out. The front door's open. and that was it, you know. And the dispatcher said, well, stay on the line with me and I'm going to connect you to someone who can help you. And you can hear in the 911 call, he says, no, I'm good. And he hangs up. And so the dispatcher tries to reconnect with Parker several times and it goes to voicemail. So she gets out on the dispatch and because everyone's busy, she broadcasts, hey, we have a suicidal call holding that needs to be answered. So Pegues and Beckles were on a traffic stop and they were able to clear from that. And I think it was Beckles went ahead and said, give us the call. So dispatch broadcasts it over the radio, gives the address and what Parker had said on the line to her. And so they go en route. And while they're en route, Beckles gets on the radio and says, is there any other available units that can respond? And so during this time, Ben had cleared from a call and was on his way back to the station to download his body camera. And when he had heard Beckles get on the radio, he heard him obviously, but then he heard that that you can just tell when someone is maybe a little bit apprehensive or there's something in their voice that just doesn't sound right because you work with them so much and you can hear the inflection. And Ben recognized that when Beckles had asked for more units. And so Ben decided that his body camera can wait to get downloaded. He was going to go to the call. So he got on the radio and, set out, show me en route to them. So Pegues and Beckles get there first on scene. And
So you say he was downloading his body cam, so he didn't take his body cam with him?
no, he was on his way to, so he had his body camera with him.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he was going to go download from a
previous call.
Mm-hmm. Which I think a lot of people forget that cops take a lot of calls.
Yeah.
And so they can have multiple critical incidents even in one day. And you have no idea, kind of like if you're downloading your equipment, that's already kind of setting the tone for your day because obviously something else has already happened to him where he's now carrying that on his shoulders. So, for example, you might go to a domestic or you might go to something else and that call could piss you off or it can make you sad or it could make you all types of different feelings, obviously. And now that's going to go on with you to the next call. I don't know what this call was or what's going to happen at the call that we're talking about, but we can already kind of expect that he has baggage with him.
Yeah, he answered several calls that day. So I don't know why he had to go get his camera downloaded, but he was going to get it downloaded and recognized that an officer needed help. So he decided to just wait on that and go ahead and answer that call and then go and download his camera, which we know that didn't happen.
So they're going to a suicidal call. Do you know what their policy is for responding to a call like that, or like kind of what happens?
Yeah. So usually, if you go for Huntsville and basically, nationwide, you guys can probably relate to that. If you go to a call where someone's suicidal with a gun and they're in their own house, you're supposed to surround and call out. So don't go make entry, don't go make contact with the guy, set up a perimeter and call the guy out. And Ben had actually done that while he was in training, through FTO and then initially loose. He had several calls.
When you say he had done that, you mean like he had gone through training or that he had been in a similar situation before?
Both. He had gone through training in the academy that when you answer a call with a guy with a gun and they're suicidal, you surround the house and call them out. And then he had answered a call, a couple actually, where it was a suicidal person and he and the other officers surrounded the house and called them out of the house so that they didn't have to go into the house, which is an unknown to them, with the guy who has a gun. So, so he gets on the radio, says he's on his way. And when he gets there, he does, he parks a couple houses away, just like we're all taught. And he doesn't see Pegues or Beckles outside. And he's thinking because of his training, classroom training, and then his training and experience on the street, they're going to surround and call out. So he sees them and he's like, well, where are they at? Something has to be wrong if they're not outside and this guy has a gun, so he's going down that train of thought. So he grabs his shotgun, loads a slug in it, thinking if they are able still to set a perimeter, he has a better weapon to use if he has to use it. Mm-hmm. And he runs up to the house. And
Does he know this suspect at all?
No, he has he had no prior connection to.
Does he have any? Did he know that? Like, did he look the guy up on the way? Then does he know the guy's criminal record, or what makes him go straight for the shotgun versus just getting out of the car with a pistol? It's a suicidal subject, so.
So he didn't, to my knowledge, he didn't have any background, and I don't know if he looked up anything on Parker on his computer. But going with the mindset of going to a call where you should be surrounding the house and calling them out.
Right.
Shotgun's gonna be better than a pistol.
Sure.
So
in case this was like in fact a suicide by cop thing, as in like that suspect could shoot out the window at the police. He wants to have a line gun to be ready for that. Is that because we have a lot of civilians? Like the majority of people listening to our show are civilians. So what a civilian's thinking right now is, okay, like this guy's going to kill himself. Why are you bringing a shotgun? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So what happens in these kind of scenarios that one might need a shotgun?
So with a shotgun and with a slug in particular, you're going to have a better, if you do have to take a shot, you're going to have a better shot to take because they're more accurate. Long guns are more accurate, and you can shoot at a longer distance. You have a better chance at hitting your target.
And I guess a lot of these calls that you go on, these suicide calls, do they often like is like suicide by cop a thing? Like, do people shoot back at you instead of just shooting themselves?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So do you guys, well, I say you guys, you're not at that department. So does Huntsville not have patrol rifles as like a shotgun as opposed to a patrol rifle?
I'm not sure if they have rifles or not. I just know that Ben was issued a department issued shotgun. So
yeah. So like for my squad, like every other person had a rifle and then had a shotgun.
Mm-hmm.
So you had equal amount of shotguns to rifles on the squad. I happen to have a shotgun.
Yeah.
That's just kind of the way. That's just kind of the way it works for us.
In my department, in my department, you have the option of both or just one, or however you want to run it. I'm sure Huntsville does issue rifles, but for whatever reason, Ben wasn't issued one at that time. So he was issued a shotgun, and that was the long gun that he had in his vehicle as he went on patrol. Gotcha.
Okay, so he shows up, and what he's expecting, if I'm following you correctly so far, what Ben would be expecting to see would be Ease and Beckles starting to shape up a perimeter of some kind. He would expect to see them on the outside, and he's loading a shotgun and would plan to, I would assume, find cover, concealment the best he could as he assessed the situation, get his long gun, get that ready, and then be on the outside acting as support as the situation progressed. Is that fair?
Yes, that's a fair statement.
But he doesn't find that when he shows up.
Right. So when he gets there and he's coming up to the house, he doesn't see Piggies or Beckles outside. So he makes his way up to the house and sees Beckles is standing on the front stoop on the front porch inside the doorway. So he's stuck in a fatal funnel.
Do we have video of this, by the way?
Yeah.
Can we see it to kind of clear this up so I can like picture it in my head, or no?
Well, we have 4 minutes. And so I kind of want to let's get through, I think, like the verbal description, and then we can kind of see it in action. That way we don't have to keep pausing it.
I got you.
So, like I said, Beckles is on the stoop right at the doorway, and then Piggies is inside the house. Piggies and Beckles both have their guns drawn, but they're pointed at the ground. And then Piggies is inside the house, standing behind a couch, and then she's talking to someone, which was Parker, to her right. And that's what Ben sees when he first gets there.
Why is she in the house? Did she get lured in?
No, when you watch the body camera of her, she just opens the door and goes straight in, and she announces, Huntsville police.
And what is Beck? Oh, fuck, I gotta remember these names.
Beckles.
What's Beckles? What is Beckles doing while she walks inside?
He's outside the door.
So she's inside by herself?
Yeah. He was smart
she's
enough
talking
to
to
not
the
go
dude?
inside.
She's talking to a guy with a gun at his head?
Yes. So she walks in the door.
Is he in the same room, or is he like upstairs?
Yeah, he's in the same room with her. So she walks in, and it's like a living room setting. She walks in, and his dog comes toward her, and she says, "Oh, there's a dog," and then you can see her look to her right, and Parker's sitting over there, and he says, "Oh, he won't hurt you," and then so she turns and shifts her direction towards Parker.
Whoa! So she's inside by herself talking to a dude. Now, does this guy have a gun out?
Yeah, the gun is out to his head like this.
And he's in the same room that she's in?
Yeah, she's like 20, 21 feet away from him with her gun pointed at the ground.
And she's in there by herself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not trying to Monday morning quarterback anybody, but this seems very odd to me.
Yeah.
So far.
So she decides to go in the house, which is against training and with the department, and then nationwide. I mean, I was taught the same thing. You don't go into a house with a guy with a gun.
Do we have an excuse
so
from her? Do we have a reason from her? Like, I feel like we shouldn't just move past this. I think it's kind of a big fucking deal. There's got to be a reason why she went inside.
She never gave one, or I never heard a reason why she thought it was a good idea to go in there.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Any of the snippets that I found from court testimony didn't include that question at all.
Like there wasn't like a child like right there that she was like, "Whoa, shit! I need to get in here and distract him from this child or something crazy."
No.
Do you think? Now is probably a good time. We can probably just play this because what I hear on here is she asked if there's anybody else in the house, and there's somebody in there, right? So is that is that would you assume that she stepped into the house because now she's like, well, crap, there's somebody in here, so I better put myself into this situation because now there's a person in the house, or with the
speaking
with
of
the
Parker
training,
or speaking of
Piggies?
Right, but are you asking if she's going in the house because Parker's right there?
No,
or
because
of
she says, is anybody else in the house?
Fiance?
And like she
so she was already in the house when that question came up. So she was already talking with Parker, and she had asked, I believe, is there anyone else in the house? And he said, yeah, his fiance was upstairs. So she was already in the house when that was brought up.
Gotcha.
She didn't know that before she had gone in.
What? Okay. I guess we're not going to ever answer we're not going to have an answer to my question because there isn't one, but I can't for the life of me think of one single, well, I shouldn't say that because like these are all very dynamic situations and there's a lot to them. They're never just black and white, but it's hard for me to think of a time that I would need to put myself face to face with somebody who has a gun unholstered and out and is in any kind of odd mental state. I mean, unless there was like a child or something that made me just like lose focus from tactics for a second, I don't understand why we're walking into this house alone in a living room with homeboy with a gun to his head. So I'm having a hard time, but that's just me and tactics. So I'll try to ignore that for a second.
Yeah. All right. So let's queue up what we're going to show here is it's like a 4-minute video. So if you're listening, I apologize. You'll hear what you can hear, but you won't see it. But we will put it on the Failure to Stop webpage. We'll link to all of this stuff there in the show notes so that you can go back and review for yourself later. But this will be a 4-minute, 25-second video, and it's going to show body worn camera footage from all three officers there, and splicing together some of the relevant moments. So we'll cue that up and play that. And then all of your explanation, Keelin, of our questions that will kind of come out of this, we'll roll it from there.
Sure.
It's not dead air, everybody. It's just the warning for graphic footage on here.
Yeah, this is going to be camera one.
So this is Becky.
All right, so she opens the door. She stands in the fatal funnel. Or he.
Came for several powerful
Wow. She's just got her whole head in that fucking doorway.
10-3, 10-35 threats to Doremus.
Oh my gosh.
All right, go ahead and pause it.
Wow.
I wanted to just roll this whole thing, but there's too much going on that I gotta like comment on. One is my understanding, Keelin, is for Huntsville, when they say 10-3, that means radio priority, right?
Yeah, emergency traffic only.
So what that means to you guys listening because again, Eric already said it, like 60% of our audience is non-cops. So just to understand a couple of key things are happening right here, because you've heard the word fatal funnel a couple of times. Fatal funnel is this idea of when a whole bunch of cops are trying to get into one place, the doorway is the only way. That's the fatal funnel, because you have to get through it. But that's an area where cops making entry on a home are at the greatest risk. So that's what we mean by fatal funnel. But this 10-3 thing is basically we're taking radio priority. And when that goes out, every other cop knows we're not on the radio. These people are in control, essentially, of the radio. They have priority. Their traffic is the only traffic that should be heard on the radio. So that's what that 10-3 thing is. Okay.
So they get to this house for the listeners here. It's a brick house. There's 3 very large windows facing the front of the house, which is always something that you want to look at as a cop. A lot of cops get shot approaching a house through the windows. So that's something that you want to be aware of. There are 2, there's a slight stairway, maybe 3 or 4 steps there with railings on either side, which make this very difficult to navigate, because if somebody gets shot in the door, you have a very limited space to work with to egress out of that scenario, or to continue moving on into the house, to identify the threats and to take care of them. I have never seen somebody open a door like this. And then, when there's a suicidal subject with a gun, which is what this call is, I mean, either this woman is very brave or very stupid, frankly. And I don't know her. I don't know if she's your friend or your comrade or whatever. I can only say this objectively, but if this was my rookie, I'd be very, very upset. We're not going to open a door and then lead with our face into a room where there's a human being with a gun. That's just bad all around. We're either going to open that door and move in very quickly, or we're just not going to go near that fucking door. But we're definitely not going to just put our face in there. And so for the listeners and not the viewers, she's walked up. This is a female who has opened this door very nonchalantly. She's talking great. I have no problem with her empathetic tone. We don't need, I think tone is a great de-escalator, and she's done a great job there. But she has opened this door and then stuck her face in the door. Not her gun, not her body armor, but her face. And that's troubling, because that's not very safe.
Yeah, I don't think that's taught at the academy level or after somewhere. But all right, let's keep playing. So we're looking at Beckel's body cam right now.
Right.
John got on drugs.
And he's just outside.
Charlie,
This is insanity.
on your cover.
10-3, 10-49 to his head.
Hold on.
So he just said emergency traffic only. He's got a gun to his head.
Wait, now's not the time to be talking on your radio, for one. I'm really nervous right now. My anxiety level's kind of high. She's just walked into this dark house. She has said that there's a dude. Homeboy is standing in the doorway, but outside, and I don't see the guy yet. So I'm guessing he can't see the guy. I don't know. That's the problem with body cameras. We don't really get to see what he sees. However, dude, I'm not letting homegirl go in there without me. And I'm definitely not talking on my radio at this point. Am I wrong? Am I crazy?
My instinct, because we're looking at the perspective of Beckles, my instinct is, if my partner was walking into that door right now, I would be grabbing a guy, girl, I don't care who it is. I'm grabbing their arm, their back, and I'm yanking them back out the door.
Yeah, we're not going
I'm not going into this house. That's what everything in me just screamed, like, no, man, I'm collaring that cop and I am yanking them out that door. Like, we're not going into this house right now. That's not
so happening. Somebody in the chats has asked about their rank. The way most police departments work, and correct me if I'm wrong, Miss Keelin, you tell, or Officer Keelin, whatever you want to be called, Sheriff Keelin, whatever it is, Dr. Keelin. Let me know what it is for you. But there is kind of a very loose rank structure, and it's usually the first person on scene pretty much takes control, and there isn't really any rank. However, anyone can, nobody outranks general safety. So if there's a safety violation and you see that, anybody can just be like, yo, homegirl. Like, there's no rank unless you're a sergeant. So everybody else is just kind of the same.
Right.
Yeah. In my department, and the way that I was trained, and maybe you guys have something similar, would be first officer on a scene is in control of that scene until any transition of that control is sensible, right? Like, even if a sergeant or a lieutenant or the chief of police showed up, it doesn't matter. Like, that's my scene until it's safe to turn it over to somebody else.
Right. So I don't know, out of the two of them, because they left the traffic stop, I'm assuming they both got there at the same time, because they were both on the traffic stop prior to this call. So I don't know who technically got there first. But
were they not? Did they not watch videos in that academy of like cops getting killed like by the hundreds?
Yeah.
So I feel like once you watch like 5 of those videos, you don't act like this on a call like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, again, I didn't go through Huntsville's academy, but in my experience, yeah, we watched those videos. So
okay, good.
Yeah.
You wouldn't do that, would you?
No. I would have surrounded the house and called the guy out, but
yeah, that seems a lot more reasonable. This is I thought this was gonna be a clear-cut case, but this has got me like extremely stressed out. Only because I normally don't Monday morning quarterback somebody, but I don't feel like these are cops. These are social workers, and it's not safe. I don't know what's going to happen, but I can already tell you why it's going to go bad. Like, I haven't seen this video, but like looking at what we have going on right now, this is set up for a disaster. I hope one of these cops don't die. Continue.
What's going on today that you want to take your life?
Point your fucking gun at him. Put the gun.
Is that Bechdale telling her to point that fucking gun at him?
No, that was Ben.
So Ben.
That was Ben. Yeah.
Ben showed up at this point.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ben's here.
Ben's
well,
on
she's not even looking at homeboy. She's
Right.
looking outside of the house at Ben.
Right.
And so Ben's saying, "Get your fucking gun out."
Yeah. Point your gun at him.
Okay, so her gun's out. Just point your gun at him.
Yeah, her gun is down, pointed at the floor, like against her leg, low ready. So she's not. If she had to do something, she's not ready at all.
Okay, I don't have a problem. Look, I'm stressed out watching this thing, and I can get his stress.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not good because now he's having to tell her to get your fucking gun out because it is this obvious that this shit is not right.
Right,
but like obviously if you are him, and which you said he's a rookie, so I don't expect him to be this, but a senior officer, if there had been a senior officer, was Bechdale not a senior officer at all?
Yeah, so Beckles had the most.
Whatever the fuck his name is. Was he a senior officer? Or
so
what?
he, I guess,
by senior officer, I mean not a rookie. A rookie is usually a rookie cop is a cop that's not been a cop for less than 2 years. A senior cop is going to be somewhere 5 years and above.
Yeah, so Beckles, I guess, has the most experience out of the three of them. It's Beckles, Piggies, and then.
But how many does Beckles have?
Ish. Maybe 5 years. I don't know.
Okay, so that's plenty.
Yeah.
Beckles should have been the one that said, and normally a senior officer in that scenario, because we know that, like I've already talked about it, that that escalation comes in your voice. And so if a senior officer would have been like, hey, let's go ahead and point that gun at our suspect real quick. And you would have said it calmly, but being a rookie that Ben is, he's kind of like, hey, you fucking retard, point your fucking gun at her. Just fine because he's a rookie and he's just been through that training and that's where his brain's at. But some senior officer in a perfect scenario would have been there to be like, hey, let's go ahead and point our gun at this gentleman, and then let's go ahead and step out of the house. But right now we've got nobody doing anything, and we've got something that's spiraling. What I see is spiraling out of control very quickly.
My question is right now, when you hear that out of nowhere, right? We're on one body cam and we'll see all of them and more footage, but to hear, so Ben comes up and is like, I'm not sure the exact quote, get your fucking gun on him or put your fucking gun on him, whatever the exact quote is, but is that like language or approach for Ben, like his normal operating mode? Or when you hear him talking like that, you know him obviously probably better than anybody else, right? So you mentioned it earlier, right? When Ben heard Beckles' tone on the radio asking for other cars, and having worked on that shift with him, he knows, and every cop gets to know that tone in somebody's voice. When you hear Ben in that moment, is that normal Ben? Is that abnormal Ben? Is that what would you say is going on there that he's using this tone and this language? That's him
recognizing that the situation is not being handled correctly. That they're in danger. He's in an immediate threat zone.
This is a very serious problem, and it's a serious problem for a number of different ways.
Right. I mean,
I like her empathetic tone, and not to cut you off, Keelin, but this is for our civilians here. I like her empathetic tone. I have no problem with that. And I think as an outside listener, as a civilian, you're looking at this and you're saying, nah, she's not really doing anything wrong. The reason why this is a problem is that also having a uniform can be an escalation of force. And this is a suicidal subject, which means she's not mentally stable. She already asked him if she's on drugs. That's fine. But she's one question away from pissing that dude off. So you ask a question like, are you on drugs? And he's like, no, why is everybody blaming me and calling me I'm on drugs? And then we've got shit that just goes south. She's not a hostage negotiator. She doesn't know what she's doing. And she's now put herself, maybe he wants to shoot her. Maybe he doesn't. You don't want to be in that scenario, not knowing what the fuck you're doing. Best thing to do is just not be a pretender here. You're not a lion, so you're not going to kill this guy. And B, you're not a hostage negotiator, and you're not going to talk him down just by using your beautiful empathetic tone, because he already hates you because you have a cop uniform on. Most likely. So don't let this empathetic tone fool you of her doing a good job, because this is a terrible job and something that can get really bad very quick for a lot of reasons. If he shoots her, she's done in the fatal funnel, and now you're not getting her back out. And now you got a hostage situation. Also, we've established that there's somebody else in the house. Now we've kind of got like this this is a train wreck. Go ahead. Sorry.
Keelin, and maybe you've been asked this question. If you were asked this on other things that I listened to you share this story on before or whatever, then I just missed it. But why, if Ben felt that the situation wasn't being handled correctly, why not say, get out of the house, right? Get your gun up and get out, like versus him ultimately stepping into the situation. If what he expected to see and the training is get on the perimeter, call out, then why step into the situation versus telling Piggies and Beckles, hey, get off that porch, get out of the doorway, get out. Let's set up a perimeter. What do you think about that question?
Can we play that footage there? Because if he's stepping in, I want to see that.
Let's play it a little bit more, and then that'll answer a little bit of the question. Yeah.
Put the gun down.
He has it to his head. I don't want anything to happen to you right now. I don't. Listen.
Who says that?
In front of me.
He can shoot you, this Ben.
Okay. Oh, keep going. I'm sorry.
Hey, look.
Hey, brother. Put the gun down. Put the gun down. Hey, brother. Put it down, bro.
Who is that?
Put the gun down. Yeah, I'm not going to kill you again.
Please.
Who's got a shotgun?
That's Ben.
Oh, shit. Ben just walked in there and smoked that dude. What happened here? I can't see it. All I see is that Ben walks through that door.
I don't think there's not really a lot of clear things, and that's about as clear as it's going to get as far as
who shot who. I'm guessing Ben shot the guy.
So Ben shot Parker.
Oh my god!
So this is Ben's camera.
That escalated way quicker than I thought it was going to.
Okay, so now we're on Ben's camera. Do you want us to keep going, or do you?
It doesn't matter if you want to get all the video done, or we can keep going back and forth.
Okay, we'll keep going.
Okay.
Hey, look.
Hey, brother. Put the gun down.
Oh shit.
Put the gun down. Hey, brother. Put it down, bro. Put the gun down. Put it down. I'm not going to tell you again.
Please. Please. Lower the gun.
I don't even see where the guy's at. Where's the guy at?
Video froze a little bit, but you can't really see him.
Put it down. I'm not going to tell you again.
Oh, he's in that doorway back there.
Lower the gun.
No, he's on the couch.
Oh, he's on the couch. Oh.
So on that wall, there's like the circle mirror thing. He's to the bottom left of that.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
I got you. Interesting.
And then we can go forward to this is Piggy's camera, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's hit that real quick.
Tell them 10-3. Hey, I need you to stand up. He got a gun to his head. Hey, what's your name? Why you want to take your life, man? Huh? Strung out on drugs?
Gosh, I want to flip my table over right now.
Is anyone else in the house? It's some.
Pretty messy house too.
She's upstairs.
Not that that
What's her
matters.
name? What's going on today that you want to take your life?
Put your fucking gun at him.
So she
there
does.
goes.
Gun down.
He has it to his head.
Nope.
I don't want anything to happen to you right now. I don't. Listen. He's right here in front of me.
He's right. Yeah, that's a fucking problem.
Hey, look.
Hey, brother. Put the gun down. Put the gun down. Hey, brother. Put it down, bro. Put the gun down.
We don't want you to take your life. Please. Please. Lower the gun.
Jesus.
That gun that she's holding in her hand is not ready, even when it's up.
No, she's not. Her thumbs are all fucking wacky.
All right, so
dude.
those are the
I
three.
don't even want to talk about that, but
Yeah, those are the three views of the situation. So to go back to that question that I asked, why? So you said that Ben's tone of voice, the language he's using is a Ben that's like, this is not being handled right, right? So why? So you have two choices at that point. Like I'm thinking anyway, I go in or get everybody back out and reset the clock where it ought to be or whatever. So why do you think, or from your understanding, the decision to go in was versus getting back out?
Right. So as we've all just watched and heard, Piggy's is not maintaining a good dialogue with the guy, and she starts to vapor lock. And
she's kind of like unempathetic too. It's not even. It's now almost like, you on drugs? What's your problem? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I feel like she started out empathetic, and now it's kind of like you're an inconvenience.
Yeah. So she's, and again, because Ben has worked with her and worked with Beckles, and just the working relationships that you have, you know when if people are good or people are bad, or if they're struggling or whatever. And so Ben recognized that she was struggling. She was starting to vapor lock, and things were going downhill because she was so unsteady. She has her gun out, okay, down to the ground. But Ben felt that because of her behavior and how she was just unsteady, grabbing her and pulling her out might have startled her. And then also she had stepped into the house even deeper. So when you're on a call, it's been my experience with other officers, if they step in or make room for you, that's kind of them silently telling you, hey, come in here and help me.
I don't know about you, Tansey. For me, I was taught by my superior officers from the rip, like the very beginning of my career. Once you go into a situation, you're in.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Look, I'm not gonna Monday morning quarterback these guys. And everybody does split. I mean, these are split decisions that really nobody's thinking about. I don't think there's a way for civilians to really understand what it's like to be around somebody that has their gun out and in a mental situation. We also don't know what this other call was that had already kind of maybe amped him up before this. I don't know. Maybe it amped him up. Maybe it depressed him. Something happened and he had to go download his body camera. So it wasn't nothing that happened. I also, this Bechdale dude, this kind of overweight officer that's kind of standing in the doorway. That's really aggravating to somebody who knows anything about tactics. I feel like these cops don't have any tactical training at all. I'm not saying that Ben is overly tactical in my opinion from this. Again, I don't want the Monday morning quarterback because I don't know where Ben's coming from. Ben, I mean, if I have to speak frankly about it, looks like me that Ben might be just fed up with this bitch. Like, God damn it. Like, are you that fucking stupid? And he kind of let that emotion get to him. And now he's going to bail her out of the situation, which is terrible because sometimes you just got to let people fail. But in this case, if she fails, she dies. So, there's that whole argument. All around, this thing was handled poorly from the beginning. And looking at it from where I'm sitting right now, a lot of this has to do with this girl's fault. And Ben didn't make it any better. Why did Ben pull the trigger?
So the gun
because I can't see that part. So.
Yeah, so the gun moved. While they're going through the dialogue of put the gun down, and Parker says, no, I'm not going to. And Ben says, I'm not going to tell you again, drop the gun. And after he says that, which you can't see it on the video because they have blurred out Parker, but from Ben's testimony, he shrugs his shoulders and the gun moves forward.
Right. And I mean, and this is
And
like,
so Ben,
coming from Ben's mindset, and I've been in this mindset before, when you're in a scenario like that, you put in your own brain, and I'm almost positive that Ben has done the same thing, that there are do's and don'ts. And the do is, and you have to talk about this months and months before something like this happens, or at least days before. But what do you we call it, kind of like gaming, war gaming, but you war game scenarios in your head so that you know that if you've ever get in that moment, you're not thinking about it. And it kind of looks to me that he's war gamed a scenario like this before, and he says, okay, if that gun comes anywhere but straight down or this way, I'm gambling on I'm going home. I have always gambled on
right.
And look, I've seen officers get way worse or way better, and I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. It's your gamble, it's your life. But that was his no going back. It doesn't look good. I'm not going to say it goes as far as murder. It's a very shitty situation. The training here is the problem on all accounts.
And so, if I can step in really quick. So 6 months prior to this incident, he and I both went through an FBI officer survival school. It was a 3-day class on officer survival and gunfighting stuff. And this was actually a scenario. So we had gone through the scenario as instructed by the FBI instructor, and it was a shoot. During the scenario was a shoot.
And that would be a shoot every time. And I don't think you need to go to an FBI training course to tell you that that's a shoot. Problem is, you shouldn't be in that scenario to begin with. You shouldn't be in a scenario.
They should have never been in the house.
Should never been in that house.
Right. It goes back to the what we all agree, like you said, Keelin, like nationally, right? This is like kind of policing 101. You have a suicidal subject with a gun. We all know suicidal becomes homicidal on a dime. Like that's what happens. And then so you surround and call out, and that's where, I mean, you're on a SWAT team. We know, like, this is when you call people with special weapons and tactics. You call the crisis negotiator, whatever is going to have to happen. I mean, you have to have someone that's trained in this, but to just kind of like knock on the door, open the door and walk in and say, what's going on today? Oh, he's got a gun to his head. I guess let's get some radio priority traffic here. And isn't this a nice dog? And then basically, I look at this initial 3-camera view and think, thanks a lot, Piggies, for putting us all in this crazy situation and forcing us to make decisions that maybe we wish we didn't have to make and end up there. Why did it ever come up? And I have 2 things next. One is, did it ever come up why Piggies or Beckles never told Ben when he showed up that there was another person in the house?
Yeah, that was asked during trial. Why wasn't it said? And they couldn't give an answer.
Because when you see, and I don't know if everybody caught it, like at the very beginning of like Piggies' body cam, she asks, is anybody else in the house? And it's answered in the affirmative. Yeah, there's somebody. She's upstairs or whatever. Mm-hmm. So she knows there's somebody in the house. And then they had an opportunity to say on the radio twice. They asked for the 10-3. She does. Beckles does. Mm-hmm. They had an opportunity to put out to other responding officers that this is now a situation where not only is there a dude in the house with a gun, but there's also at least one other person in the house, and that never comes out.
Yeah, and then once you find out there is somebody in the house, then it's kind of like one of these things. Now we kind of have to hold it because we can't allow a hostage situation, because if he shoots her, then you really haven't done your job. So now, you're not leaving, you're not getting out of that situation, because there's now a hostage. And, I'm trying to think of like, because I've been in a lot of situations, a lot of scenarios. And when you become a senior officer, I think it is very important. And I think if you want to take a training moment, Officer Keelin, that for a moment for our fans, I'm not shitting on your husband by any means here, but if we want to take a training moment from this, your voice is an escalation of force. Your actions can be an escalation of force. And that's why it's very important that if you were ever a senior officer and you are going to allow other officers that aren't seniors to do things like this, that you have to be willing to mentor them through this. And somebody should have been there. And I hope now that you were in your 5 years that in this situation, instead of taking command and raising the kind of hostility, if you will, that's a shitty word, but if you're going to escalate things by coming in the way he did, I hope in the future that we would be able to say, okay, look, I'm either going to escalate this and it's going to get really bad, or we're going to have normal conversations, maybe not using swear words, because at the end of the day, whether you like it or not, his escalation of force by his tone of voice is what's gotten him in prison, which I don't agree with. So it's not a crime, but a jury doesn't know how to reasonably think because they don't know. So
Right,
all they
they're not
see
cops.
they're not cops. So what they see is this guy being an asshole. So for all you other senior officers that are watching this, that might be pounding your heads, or even if you're a younger officer and you're watching this and you're beating your head, somebody needs to be the guy that says, hey, piggies, let's go ahead and get your gun up. Let's go ahead and move back. I'm going to move in. I'm coming up on your right. Sir, let's drop that gun. Drop that gun. I'm not going to tell you again. And then we take that shot. Just that tone, that professionalism, right, goes ahead, and now you don't go to jail for fucking 25 years. Same outcome, same scenario, different tone. You don't go to prison for 25 years. That sucks. But I think it's something that we all need to write down. We all need to take note of, that just your tone alone, I believe, is what's gotten him into jail for 25 years. Not saying I agree with that, but I think that that's what people see here. And that's why I think it's very important for people watching this, that you get in that scenario that, you know, we maybe think professionalism first. We have to, or you're going to go to jail for 25 years.
Yeah.
What do you
that?
think about that, Keelin? Keelin.
It's okay. Yeah. So, and we've talked about it, you know, that he could have been not as loud. And I guess abrasive.
I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to do this. I don't want you I don't want you to do that. That's not what I'm asking you to do. I would hate for you to say, because we will all do things different. Look, I've done exactly what he's done. I've done that. I've literally, when I was a new training officer, I was training my rookie, who was great. And I got frustrated because another piece of shit cop was training another cop to be a piece of shit just like him. And on a very, you know, high profile case, a very high profile call where even the news had staged and we were on perimeter, I fucking just slung my shotgun and went balls deep in this dude like a drill sergeant. Totally unprofessional. And had I had to go back and shoot the dude that was in the house, I might be in the same scenario you had. So I'm not saying that we all haven't been there and done that. I think it's just something that we look at other officers outside and realize that this is where our society, this is where people are in this juncture of things. That just your tone of voice can land you in prison.
And Keelin, you're no straight. I mean, I'm sure people have told you don't look at the comments online. I mean,
yes,
don't go online and look about this, right? Like, but this, I think this moment, and the reason that we're not shying away from it is because this is like it. And I know Eric hasn't even dug into the trial stuff. I mean, we're going to get into that. The trial is a joke. Like, I don't even think he's in jail because of the tone of this. Like, this is the trial is a whole separate animal that really where this case devolves.
That's where the issue
let's
is.
go. Let's go into there. I thought we were done. My apologies here. I'm so sorry. I should have saved that rant for the end.
What I'm saying is the greatest criticism from the outside, right? And I think even people watching this show that listen that are going to search Officer Ben Darby, they're going to search Parker's name, they're going to search Huntsville, Alabama shooting, and they're going to stumble into YouTube videos and body cam footage. And like I did, like I dove into YouTube to see what have people said about this and what's the general sentiment. And we're all cops here. We all know the general sentiment is usually ignorant. And I mean ignorant in the sense of they don't know. They don't have the ability to formulate an opinion that is informed because they just don't know what they don't know. But that's the big criticism is this cop, referring to Ben, escalated the situation. He shows up and just goes right in there. There's no time. There's no nothing. He just says, you know, get your effing gun up, and goes in there. And he was looking for a problem, right? Like the tone, the perspective of the outsider looking at this, feeling like what was going on there, and what's your perspective on that? Like, how do you answer the critic in about that particular aspect of this?
So if you're not a cop, you don't know. And I mean, we could beat that until we come home. You go through training as a police officer, and he recognized that she was not behind cover, and if Parker wanted to shoot her, he had multiple opportunities to do that. And I believe that I don't want to say scared him because that sounds weak, but that caused concern for him, seeing that he had one officer completely in the wide open for this guy to shoot at, and then Beckles is stuck in the doorway just hanging out. And so he recognizes there's a guy in the house with a gun less than 21 feet away from them, and his two officers could potentially about to get shot, and she's just going downhill. She's not taking control of the situation at all.
No,
and
no, I agree with this
so,
shoot 100% so far. I agree with this shoot. I don't think it needed to happen. I don't think there should have been a shooting at all. I'm not going to second guess his decision to pull that trigger. I'm not going to say it's the wrong decision. I think it's a decision that didn't need to be made and wouldn't have been made if this piggy wouldn't have been in the fucking doorway like a dum-dum. But I don't, I'd love to hear her side of the story. Maybe she's got a whole different perspective that I'm not seeing, but only seeing this perspective.
She won't give it. She got promoted to the FBI now.
Yeah.
This is absolute insanity. And she escalated that situation. Now, of course, Darby could have done a lot of things different, but also Darby's only been a cop for 18 months. So really, he can't do what he doesn't know what to do. So I'm not going to shit on that at all.
Right. He went with what he thought was best, and what he thought was best was
I have no problem with that.
Taking up that space and going in there, and then eventually he did what he had to do.
At the end of the day, this never would have happened.
I think Eric and I even before, like we talked like 10 this morning, before we were going through this situation, I think back to try to put myself in that situation from a cop perspective, and I would have been Ben Darby. And I think that's what all cops need to understand. You could be Ben Darby too, right? I would have been Ben, right? Good, bad, and different. I would have made the same decision he did because I was taught once you get ground, you don't give it back. So I show up on a situation, I see them, they're already jacking this up. We all recognize Pegues and Beckles were not responding to this the right way. But now I'm in this, whether I wanted to be or not. Ben's in this, whether he wanted to be or not. And he has to make a decision. And then you got to stand by that decision. So he gains the ground, steps in, takes control of the situation where he sees other officers doing the opposite of what they're trained to do and takes action. Now
I don't see where this goes. I don't see where this would have gone anywhere from there, because even before he takes that shot, if she's standing in the house the way she is, she's already starting to kind of fall into that, what is it? The repetition where you just like keeps going over and over again. She's saying the same things. She's definitely floundering. She's not even asking good questions at this point. She's drifting further into the house. So where does it go from there when she runs out of questions completely and then they're just staring at each other?
Right.
And it's like, then what? Like, I don't see any outcome of this ever getting better unless just magically this dude really doesn't want to fucking kill himself. And he's like, you called my bluff. But damn, that's a huge fucking gamble. So I think at some point, somebody like Darby had to do something. I mean, of course, there's 1,000 different ways that we obviously know now could have been done way differently. Like he could have taken a knee and drawn her. I mean, there's could have been 1,000 fucking things, but it had to happen. Like what he did had to happen. Somebody had to go in there and get the ball rolling, because this was going to go nowhere. It wasn't going to get better from there. Or you were just hoping for luck, which is not something you want to do. You don't want to hope for luck, because I don't know how many kids this woman's got and all the other bullshit. But yeah, I mean, definitely from what I'm seeing right now, absolutely not murder, but like incompetence.
Yeah, there's a lot to get into with
and not even by Darby
charge in Alabama as well, like what specifically constitutes murder in Alabama. So we go through this whole situation. There's one thing that I want to make sure that I don't forget before we transition from the incident into what happens afterwards and all the trial stuff, right? Because that's where things really get ridiculously bad. There was somebody
Can you answer this really fast for Kurt Webb? It's a great question. It says, could you explain really quick from the cop's point of view of why it was bad that they not back out and went back outside? Because you said hold that ground. He's asking, why is it so important to hold that ground?
So how I was trained was that the reason you don't give up the ground, and I think, Keelin, you bring it up, she had already gone even further inside, right? So it wasn't like she was just somewhere, because I said my initial instinct, if I was Beckles, grab her. No. We're not doing this. We're not going in, right?
Dude.
So stop it before it happens. But now that it's happened, now that you've gone there, we're there. Now we don't go back, right? So like if now you've got Pegues in really far inside, The body worn camera might make it seem like it's a little bit, but I'm telling you right now, from knowing body cams, she's like solidly inside this house now.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Beckles is now standing in the fatal funnel, peeking his head in like an idiot.
Dumb.
And now Ben, if you back out at this point, I think if you would back out, now you've got 2 cops at risk to have to pass back through the fatal funnel. And now you're putting 2 times the risk to, instead of just say, we're in it. Now I'm going to step in and try to help these cops who are putting themselves at risk.
Well, you can't back
to
out now. You can't back out now because you know there's somebody else in the house.
Right.
If there wasn't somebody else in the house, I say you back out all day long. I say you make that tactical retreat all day long. That's just my opinion. I would have said that from the get-go. I would have maybe like got on my knee, put my shotgun down range, and said, "Let's go and start moving towards me, move towards me, move towards me," and then we get out of the house. But once you know that there's a human being in that house, Kurt, you can't, because now if he kills that human being, you're still going to fucking jail, and you got to live with him killing her. Yeah, dereliction. You're fucked. So now that you know somebody's in the house, you're not. Yeah, you're in it, baby. You're not.
All right, let me give you some space here, Keelin, to like, I know, and I apologize if we're talking too much. We're amped up about this too, and obviously we're not even coming close to what you've experienced or what you're going through. So I have another follow-up question about something that I'm aware of that's coming around the bend, but I want to give you some space to kind of like talk to the people listening to the show about what we've covered up to this point.
Okay. So quick recap. Basically, they get the call, they go, Pegues goes in the house, gives more room. Ben goes in there and ends up eventually shooting the guy. He shoots him. He clears up to Parker, slings his shotgun, handcuffs Parker, removes the weapon from Parker and places it to the side. And while he's doing that, the fiance comes down from downstairs. She comes down the stairway, and she is in pajamas, like in a nightgown with open hands. So she's obviously not a threat. She doesn't have any weapons on her. You can tell all she has is her pajamas on. And Pegues turns around and takes a command grip and is like, show me your hands, show me your hands, show me your hands. So
we can show that real quick.
Yeah, but that's normal. Like, I mean, you just saw somebody get fucking smoked in the face with a slug. Like, you're conditioned black. You're still trying to process what the fuck happened. And now you got somebody walking down the stairs. Your brain is working faster, or your body's reacting faster than your brain can keep up with. Mm-hmm. I mean,
but there's a stark difference from where I sit watching.
Yeah, she just saw somebody get their fucking head blown off.
Yeah, but now
changed my tone too.
Yeah, I guess now she's taking it serious. Like now, she decides to act like she's doing her job.
Yeah.
This is what this is the way it should have been from her if she was ever addressing somebody with a real weapon, let alone empty hands. I don't know. You know what? I don't even worry about showing that right now. It's just we'll keep moving on. But continue, Keelin.
So
add anything else?
Yeah, so they go, I think Beckles goes over the radio, shots fired, and then Ben gets on and says offenders 10-7, meaning that he's deceased. And then Ben exits the house, and Beckles secures Ben's shotgun because now it's evidence because of the shooting. And then, everyone from Huntsville gets there, and Ben gets separated, and he has to go to the hospital and get his pee test and his blood taken to make sure that he's not intoxicated or under the influence of anything. And during that time, he was able to call me. So I'm at work on shift, and I was answering an alarm call on my way, and he calls and he says, "Hey, if you hear anything about whatever," if you hear anything, just know that I'm okay. And I was like, okay, like, what happened? Did you wreck your car? Because when he was in Echo Unit, when he was in training, he got into an accident, and most departments, if not all of them, if you get into an accident or you shoot someone, you go to the hospital to get a test done. So, and I said, "Are you okay?" He said, "I'm fine. I didn't get in a wreck. Just know that I'm okay." And we got off the phone, and I was like, well, I realized this crap. He's been involved in a shooting, because why else would you go to the hospital? You weren't in a wreck. You're okay. He was physically okay. He said he was fine. So I answered my call, and I called my supervisor, and I was like, "Hey, family emergency, I need to go home." So I got off shift early, went home, waited for Ben to get home. He got home late that night and was obviously just physically tired, and you could just tell that, you know, something had happened. And we established that he was involved in a shooting before we went to bed, but we didn't talk about the actual incident. You know, I said, if you want to talk about it, we'll talk about it. And if not, then we're not. And he said, I don't really want to talk about it right now. So he had 3 days off, and it ended up being my off rotation. So I was off the next 3 days. He went back to the department on the 6th and went through his IA interview and his major crimes investigation interview.
So they did give him like his sleep cycles and some time before he had to give his statement, right?
Yeah. So he had I guess 3 days to sleep through that and go through the sleep cycle. Went in, did his interviews, had to go get a fit for duty check, you know, through the department. All 3 officers had to go through all these things. And then he was put on administrative duty. And then on April 17th or 18th, one of those 2 days, they held an incident review board. So Huntsville Police Department at the time held an internal review board. After this incident, they've now done it, and they've given it to a different agency to conduct whenever they do one. But for Ben's incident, they did an internal review board.
So am I crazy in thinking that the DA was on this review board?
He was on the review board.
Okay. So I think I think this is where things start to get weird, right? Because everything up to this point is normal. I mean, we can look at an incident like that, and police officers have to deal with, I mean, a lot of people in the comments that are watching the show live are like, this is crazy. Like, this situation is crazy. Well, yeah, this is the day in the life, right? Like, this is the craziness that is policing, because things aren't always this like cut and dry, like perfect world.
And this happens every day. It's just a lot of times you get lucky, you know. Shit like this happens every day. It's just sometimes the cards play out. Some dum-dum is going to go into a building that they shouldn't go into, but luckily the suspect's not going to be there. Or dum-dum has their gun at the low ready, and the other guy shoots himself, and then it ends itself. So it's not like, you know what I mean? It's not like this is just some kind of like random case. Like, this shit happens all the time. It's just this one just happened to go as far south as it possibly could go. So
this review board that he's going to end up in front of, so I want to compare and contrast with my experience, like how it works. If an officer is involved in a shooting at least in our area of Michigan, then there's 2 things that happen. There's 2 tracks. One is internal, but even internal is passed to the state police. So like, I worked for a municipality, and then if I would have been involved in a shooting, the initial investigation begins at my department level and then is turned over to the state police to continue to investigate. And then the other track is going to be the DA's office. The DA will conduct an investigation in coordination with the state police evidence as well, in which the DA will determine, are they going to bring charges or not going to bring charges, while simultaneously, department-wise, they're determining, was any policy violated, was any procedure violated, you know, that kind of a thing. So the legal side is being handled by state police and the DA, and the policy side is being handled there. What sounds to me is like this review board is a mix of both. Am I wrong about that, or am I right about that?
At the time of Ben's incident, it was a mixture of both. Yes. Okay. Now, after this has happened, they split it up.
So, but dude, this blew my mind. It blew my mind to hear that the DA was on this review board, and he's initially cleared, right?
Yeah. So it's members of Huntsville Police Department, you know, command staff, and people within the department. It's the DA, the chief prosecutor, Tim Gann, is also present. And then there's some people from like city legal in different parts within the city are also on the board. So
it's not just a bunch of other cops saying,
right,
hey, good job, buddy. Like,
right,
we've all
like
been
there's
there.
Civilians on there.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right.
So this is not just because a lot of another criticism from the public is going to be, well, of course the internal review board cleared him because it's the good old boy network. And of course they're going to say he was fine.
Right.
But that's not what this was.
Right. Right.
Gotcha.
It was HPD, it was the DA's office, and then city legal and some other people within the city not connected to the department. We're all on the review board. As it was
I mean,
explained.
I still don't get where you get fucking murder from this.
Yeah, explain to us what Alabama's, because Alabama's weird with murder. Like it's not like other states. It's got kind of its own flavor to how they charge people with murder.
Right. I don't feel like this is like, I don't know. I mean, obviously it is debatable because he's in fucking prison, but I kind of feel like once you know the totality of the circumstances and you look at literally the evidence right before you, it's kind of just like piss poor training, piss poor tactics, fucking sue the department and fire piggies, maybe fire, I could justify firing your husband, unfortunately, just because I know what city's got to do. They have to save face. Like, I'm not unaware of that. I don't necessarily agree with it, but to make the city more trustworthy and for the greater good of the community, that's what needs to happen. I'm fine with that. I don't see murder anywhere in this.
So murder in Alabama, it's just a murder charge. It's not murder 1, 2, 3 or anything like that. And murder is person A killed person B. And I'm not using the actual language, but person A killed person B by this means.
Right.
So how do they, like, he got sentenced to 25 years. So like, is there a guideline for like, can somebody go to prison in Alabama for murder for 5 years, for 50 years? Like, how did they determine 25?
Yeah. So it's a 10-year minimum, and then if you use a weapon, it's 20. If you use a firearm, that's a qualifier. So your minimum is 20 years and then, to life.
So your first mistake is, setting roots in Alabama.
Yeah, Alabama is not a great state to be a cop in, apparently. Or
second worst, only to Michigan.
So fast forwarding a lot, but we go to sentencing, and the DA's office gets up there and says, we recommend a minimum of 25 years. By doing so, that would negate him from being eligible for an appeal bond. If he only got sentenced to 20 years, he would be eligible. But 20 years in a day to life, you have to sit in prison day for day until your appeal comes back. So the DA's office wanted to make a statement and prove the point. So they said, we want 25 years at least.
See, and I think this is something that needs to be addressed, is that if police officers are going to be held to a higher standard, which I don't think they should be, then that needs to be like in stone, written in stone, that says like, if a cop gets a speeding ticket, he's going to pay the maximum ticket. So, hey, before you sign up to be a cop, just know that if you get caught speeding, we have now determined, the DAs, that you will get the maximum punishment. If you kill somebody, you will get the maximum punishment. And then you could be like, you know what, pay me more then, or I'm not going to do this because it's not worth it. But this whole like, let's not treat you like a normal citizen, even though you are a fucking citizen. And like some people are like, well, cops should be held to a higher standard. Okay, where do you draw that line? Because I feel that a city councilman should be held to a higher standard. City mayor should be. City manager should be. A teacher should be. A preacher should be. I mean, where do you draw the line on who gets held to a higher standard or not? The judge, you know what I mean? So on and so forth.
Right.
So like, if we're going to do not, for a normal person that smokes somebody with a gun gets 20 years, but just because he's a cop, he's now going to get 25 years. Either that needs to be a precedent set in stone and we get paid more to have that responsibility on our shoulders, or it's off the table.
Right. And the DAs were trying to say, Ben never came out and said, I'm sorry that I killed Jeff Parker. He was sorry that the incident had to take place.
Sure.
But Jeff Parker made the decision to move his gun towards Ben, and Ben shot him because he recognized
Josh Parker decided to do drugs, decided to get strung out on drugs, decided to then go get a firearm and sit down on the floor, and then decided to call 911, and then decided to hang up on 911 and not respond to the call. And then, dumb decides to stick her head in the fucking door. I mean, come on.
I think now's a good time. There's still a lot to do this. Like,
let's go. Keep going.
Are you good, Keelin? Do you need a break, like, for a little bit?
I got all day. No, I'm good.
You're a fucking SWAT. She's a SWAT cop. She's a SWAT cop. She can sit there and tough it out.
Hey, I'm sorry, I'm a nice guy. Okay.
You're a SWAT
No,
officer. Act
you're
like
good.
No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding.
I gotta pee really bad. I
I'm
know
just
that
being a piece of
because
shit.
whenever the ghost bed ad read hits, I'm taking a leak real quick.
All right, well, we'll do the ghost bed ad read real
All right,
quick since we do
because
have
there's a
ghost
lot.
on our hands.
I want to talk about so that we know where we're going to pick up. I want to talk about the review board decision with that DA on it, and there's something else that's really interesting. There's a guy named Jason that pops up in some of these things, and I think that colors some of the decision making and the mindset of Ben in this whole situation that somehow just magically disappears into thin air around this whole thing. And I think this is where things start to get weird. So ghost bed, I'm going to urinate. Keelin, thank you so much. Again, we're kind of like at probably like a midway point, but thank you so much for being willing. And I know that it's not easy to sit. You're already in a difficult situation and you're dealing with us presenting sort of like a complete, not only the cop's perspective, but devil's advocate, bringing our audience to this. And we're coming at you very hard. And I really appreciate you being willing to come through this and stand up and keep your wits and keep this battle going for your husband. I appreciate that sincerely. So, all right, ghost bed. There's no good time to do an ad read in the show. There's just not.
Lisa, oh no, fucking Lisa, Keelin, Miss Officer Keelin. Listen, I served one of my partners back in the day. Her name was Lisa Keelin, so I keep wanting to call you Lisa.
You're good.
Look, your husband's in prison. It sucks. Those nights get lonely, especially in Alabama where it's hot as fuck. I bet you hope that you're sleeping on a ghost bed. If not, man, we need to figure out a way to get you a ghost bed so that you can sleep peacefully at night. Because that's one thing you don't want to. That's one thing you don't want to sacrifice your sleep. You need it now more than ever. You need to have that perfect mindset because you got a lot of shit going on in your life. You're a SWAT cop, so you're gonna make a lot of split decisions. Sleep is not one thing that you want to slouch on.
Right.
We love Ghost Bed. They've been a loyal sponsor with the Drinking Bros for the last 5 years. Officer Keelin, we are part of the Drinking Bros family and network. Everyone raves about them. If you'll help me out with this, Officer Keelin, I would love it. They have a super comfortable mattress that lasts forever and ever, and they're made in the good old, help me out here, USA. USA. Yes, it's terrible. That's more terrible. This is.
I'll work on it.
Work on that.
Okay.
It's like doing dry fires. Every mattress has a 20-year warranty. Some even have 25. Oh shit, 25 is not a good number for this. You can try it out for 101 nights, not 98, not 99. But if you don't like it, you can easily send them back. No hard feelings. One of your favorite parts about Ghost Bed is that each mattress has that cooling technology. So as we know, it gets hot as shit in Alabama, especially during the summer. But while you're hot, you can stay cool. Stay hard while staying cool, baby. That's my motto. Ghost Bed offers bundles so that you can get everything you need. You don't even have to really think about it. Choose from their 4 mattresses and pick your bundle. Whether you just need a mattress and a frame or you want it all with their cooling pillows and their sheets, which fucking go all in if you're going to go all in. You can get the best bang for your buck. Right now, Ghost Bed is offering 40% off of Ghost Bed bundles where you get a mattress and adjustable bays or 30% off of everything if you use that code Drinkin' Bros at ghostbed.com/Drinkin' Bros. That is the promo code there, Drinkin' Bros. Ghostbed.com/Drinkin' Bros. $35 a month, 0 down, 0% financing for up to 60 months. Look, if Sarah Kelch can afford a Ghost Bed, we've all seen what she drives. So can you. Get a bed that sleeps so good, it's scary.
I own one, and I love it. All right. Are we done?
Need to work on getting Officer Keelin one.
Yeah, let's get her a Ghost Bed.
Ben,
Hey, Ghost
actually,
Bed.
we've discussed Ben wants one when he comes home. So
I was going to say, I don't know if they deliver to prison, but we'll try.
Yeah.
And once we get into this, guys, we get into the trial part. You'll agree with Keelin. You'll agree with me. It's not a matter of if Ben's coming home, it's when, because this is where things get weird, starting with the fact that I keep bringing it up because I literally cannot fathom the fact that the DA is on this review board that clears Ben of all policy and procedure and legally, right? Like they're saying, hey, we've looked at the case law, we've looked at the situation, the department training, the policies. In fact, you tell them what happened to Piggies and Beckles after this review board, and what happened to Ben. What happened after this?
Okay, so they have the review board that each officer goes in and states their side of what happened, their experience, and the review board hears everything. They hear from other people, and then they make their decision that it was in policy and it was a good shoot, that there was no state or local law that was broken. Policy and procedure were followed. Everything was good to go. So all three of them get released to full active duty, and they all go back to work the street. So they all go back to second shift west in Huntsville.
Did Piggies and Beckles, didn't they get sent to some remedial training?
Yeah. So during the review board, it was decided that it was a good shoot, but that the actions of Piggies and Beckles were in conflict with HPD standards training and protocol. And so they had to go back to the police academy and get retrained on threat assessment and how they did not perceive the threat in front of them during that incident. So Ben did not have to go through any remedial training at all, but the other two did. So that all happens. They all go back to the road. And then right at the end of May, Ben got pulled into the chief's office, and they said, "Hey, the district attorney is looking to charge you. We're pulling you off the street."
Jesus.
The same district attorney that cleared him.
Mm-hmm.
The same district attorney that was on a board that sent the other two officers to remedial training, not Ben, and said he had no wrongdoing and that there was no legal reason to prevent him from going back to the road to do his job.
Mm-hmm.
Now comes to the chief and says,
"Yeah, he said,
get rid of Ben or we're charging him," right?
Yeah, basically, there was discussions. If you fire Ben, we won't charge him. And Chief McMurray said, "No, I'm not. He didn't do anything wrong. He followed everything the way he was taught. He didn't break, any law, policy, procedure. There's no grounds to fire him. We're not firing him." And so they went back and forth on that. And then there was a grand jury held in July. Obviously, Ben didn't know about it because it's a grand jury. It's not public information. But people from the academy went to go testify during that grand jury on his behalf. And the grand jury was held over for an extra day once the prosecutors were able to speak with the grand jury members. And they decided to indict him.
Well, I would imagine that they probably brought Piggy in there. And Piggy was like, "I had the whole thing under control." And he just comes storming up there and blasting this dude in the face. And everybody was probably like, because obviously from a civilian point of view, that's what it fucking looks like. Obviously, we being awesome cops know that that's not the case there.
Right.
But I bet you that's what swayed the grand jury there.
So they have the grand jury and they decide to indict him, which we as cops know it's very easy to get a grand jury indictment. It's not a hard process to go through. So he gets indicted and I get a phone call and Ben says, "Meet me at mom and dad's. They're charging me with murder."
Dude, you should have fucking went to Costa Rica.
So
should have been like, "No, honey, I know this trick. We're headed to Miami, getting on a plane."
Yeah. You should know better. You should have had a go bag ready.
Several people had said, "Now's your chance if you guys want to get out." And Ben said, "I didn't do anything wrong. There's no reason for me to flee. Other than potentially go through a trial, then, now he's in prison for it." But he stood his ground the entire time, knowing that he did the right thing. And so he gets August 3rd, 2018. He goes in, turns himself in. He gets formally booked into Madison County Jail.
God, I can't even fucking imagine that, man. I just can't even imagine the feeling. Like, what were you feeling? Like, were you just like sick to your stomach? God.
Yeah. So I was at the gym actually when I got the phone call. And I lost it. I broke, and everyone in the gym is looking at me like, "Why is this girl crying?" And I didn't even re-rack all my crap and, put the weights back. I just
whoa.
Yeah,
you re-rack your weights?
I put the bar up, but I didn't
There is no reason ever to not re-rack your weights. That is rude.
Yeah,
wow.
Come on.
Well, I did.
There's a line. Come on.
Yeah. Well,
we get it. You're sad and shit, but rack your weights. Okay.
So,
I'm kidding. We're
so
sorry.
he gets booked in and he had a $20,000 bond. So we posted that bond and we came home and, called his lawyer to figure out, well, what the crap is, what are we doing now?
Is Alabama a union state for policing? Like, do you have representation? How did you secure an attorney and what did that look like? Because in Michigan, we have unions for the police department. So we would have we would have representation because we pay our dues. So we get a lawyer in these situations. You don't have that?
Yeah, so we don't have a union. Alabama is a right to work state. So we had people just reach out to us, and we went with the lawyer that we have. And then we have several lawyers on this, on this
God
case.
bless those guys. Okay.
But we additionally, at first we went with the lawyer and contacted him and told him what was going on. And he, Ben was then taken off the street again, obviously, because now he was just charged with murder.
Mhm.
And he was put on, I don't know if it was administrative leave and then administrative duty. He did have some time at the house before he went back to work. But once he was charged, the Chief McMurray made a press release, had a press conference and said, yes, he was just charged with murder, but we stand behind Ben Darby. He's not a murderer. And then, as well as the mayor and the city council all said that. And then
they cleared him. The
Right.
DA cleared him.
So then the district attorney has a news conference and says, no, Ben Darby is a murderer and he is a horrible person and he should be in jail because he just committed murder, and he goes down that rant. And so because of I don't know this to be true. This is just my thoughts on it. The judge says, hey, gag order. No one's talking about this. So she issues a gag order. So no one is allowed to publicly speak about the incident. So
Crazy.
That's why we've been quiet
but
until
he
now.
goes like back on administrative duty. So he's like, what was he working at the police academy? They put him there, like doing some work there.
Yeah, he was reassigned to the police academy, and he was just doing like paperwork stuff, helping out.
Yeah, they
had an academy in session, I think, so he was kind of like a gopher doing a bunch of stuff for them. And then eventually he was moved into out of the academy into admin, and he helped out with the department accreditation.
Like trying to go through that.
Huntsville,
CALEA or whatever.
CALEA,
it is.
Huntsville's CALEA certified. So he worked on that until the day he resigned.
Tell me about something that's going to pop up, and if you feel like it's better to talk about it at a different point, tell me. But this Jason guy, which I never caught his last name, seems to pop up a few times as someone who had maybe was training for Huntsville or spoke to officers at Huntsville and conducted a training about his own circumstance of getting shot on a suicidal call or something like that. And I think that colors sort of like maybe Ben's mindset and experience at that point in his career. And it'll color in the trial when we'll get to that. But can you explain who this Jason guy is and what's that all about?
Yeah. So Jason Moore is a Huntsville police officer. He was on the SWAT team. And I don't know when this incident happened, but it's obviously before Ben's. He answered a call. It was a domestic, and it turned into being a domestic standoff. The male party of the domestic was on their front porch with two long guns pointed at the ground. And so Jason was at the call. He had his rifle out, trained on the subject, and he was waiting on shoulder movement from the individual to go ahead. He was waiting for a shoulder movement for him to go ahead and make the shot and defend his life and the other officers' lives on that scene. Mm-hmm. And so while they're in negotiations with this guy, the individual is able to flick his wrist up faster than what Jason can recognize, and Jason gets shot in the face with birdshot. He survives it, obviously. And so in 2016, Jason was a training advisor at the academy. So he had transitioned off of patrol and became a training advisor. Mm-hmm. And that was his first academy that he taught, which ended up being Ben's academy. And during the academy, he taught the concept of action versus reaction. The actor is going to be able to act faster than the reactor. And he had brought up his incident and taught that to the class. And so Ben had, after learning about action versus reaction, he also had a live testimony from Jason as to his account and his experience with action versus reaction. And it definitely played a part into the decision that Ben made, April 3rd.
I think that's important because as we look back on the situation that we went through for 90 minutes. It's like, as Ben shows up to this, he sees the same scenario essentially playing itself out. He's got a long gun. The partners have their guns down. You got a guy on this call, and these other officers are one wrist flick away from getting shot. And so I think that plays into that. So he's working. He's been charged with murder by the very DA that cleared him just a handful of months beforehand. Now decides to try to leverage to get him fired. Do you think the George Floyd incident had anything to do with this?
So he was charged. The George Floyd incident had to do with his trial. Absolutely. Him being charged with murder all happened within 6 months of the incident. So George Floyd, you know, it all happened in 2018. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that all happened in 2018.
So why is there any explanation at all from this DA or the DA's office why he had previously been on a board that cleared him and then decided to try to bring charges? And at first, does he not care about the actual charge because all he wants him to do is lose his job, right? Hey, if you fire him, we won't charge him. So it's almost like I feel like the DA didn't really believe that he murdered anybody. Otherwise, he would have charged him with it.
Right. There wouldn't be any, negotiation of just get him off the payroll, and we won't charge him. So, honestly, I never looked into anything that the DA said because I was more concerned with my current situation with Ben and trying to figure out, well, what are we doing now? So I never really researched what the DA's opinion or anything like that was. I'm sure there's something out there. I know he's done press releases, and I know enough to know that he did come out and say, yeah, he is guilty of murder, and he should be held accountable, and blah blah blah. And that's when the gag order was issued. But
so the DA gets to say his piece, set the tone for the public, and then all of a sudden nobody else is allowed to fucking talk about it.
Right. Because that makes a lot of sense.
The same DA that freaking cleared him.
Yeah, he was on.
It blows.
I don't know. Now I know why Jocko gets all emotional because I'm getting fucking. Really
he was
mad.
on the board that cleared Ben.
Like this whole case is really pissed me off. Like Dum sticking her head in the fucking doorway. This DA that's a piece of shit. God.
All right, so he's charged.
You look like Sarah Kelch. Didn't fucking rack your weights. Could this get any worse?
What happens between the time he's charged and the time that the trial begins? Talk to us about what's going on in that book. How long was that, and what's going on in that time?
Right. So he gets charged August 3rd, 2018. So 6 months to the incident, or 5 months to the incident. And we're told, okay, we should have a trial by the end of 2018. We file a motion for qualified immunity. So we have a year to the date. So April 3rd, 2019, we have a qualified immunity hearing. So it's the judge, Ben and his legal team, and then we have expert witnesses that come and testify on his behalf, including the Jason and the FBI instructor who taught us action versus reaction. And then the DA's office calls Piggies and Beckles and Josh Vogel, who is the detective that investigated the incident. And I'll say this: after Ben did his interview with Vogel, Ben said that they walked out of the room, and Vogel told him, "Don't let anyone Monday morning quarterback you. You did the right thing." And then Vogel gets up on the stand during his immunity hearing and completely changes his tune on that, which he also does during the trial. But he did say that to Ben. We go to the immunity hearing, and it's an all-day thing. Everyone testifies. That is open to the public. COVID hasn't hit yet. And so it was a very small courtroom, but it was me, his family, and basically his whole squad showed up to support him. And then several members of command staff showed up to support him and just to be there for it. And we get done, and the judge says, okay, I've got some other things with other cases going on, so I'll have an answer for you by Monday. I think we had the immunity hearing was on a Wednesday, I believe. The very next day at 8:00 that morning, she makes her decision and denies the immunity. No reason given. She just says, nope, you're not getting it.
So no opinion was issued, no explanation was issued. Like, I take this evidence before me, but here is why I'm not granting this. No explanation.
Nothing. Nope, nothing. All it said was no opinion.
This is still a gag order in place too.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can't go to the public and say, hey, this judge just...
Yeah, but who the fuck can put a gag on you? You know what I mean? Like, tell him to get fucked, dude. Like, he can't talk about it, but why can't you?
I was told no one was allowed to talk about it.
No, I mean, you got civil rights.
Going back, yeah, I would have.
Talk all
but,
fucking day.
You know, we've never been in this situation before.
Sure,
so
I get it. Yeah, it's me, Monday morning quarterback.
Hey, you can't do that, or you know, you're going to go to jail, or you know, whatever's going to happen to you. So
like, he gets sentenced to jail. You don't think the jury's gonna? Did you see the jury going downhill? Like, were you guys like, oh, we got this jury, or were you like, fuck, dude, this jury hates us?
Jump to
so
the trial and jury selection, I guess.
That happens 2019. 2020 is the year of COVID, so they suspend all jury trials. So now we're just waiting for the judges to say, okay, we're going to have one. We get that in January. We hear,
and is he in jail this whole time, or is he out?
No. He's out because we posted his original bond was $20,000.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we posted that he's at home and he's still going to work.
Gotcha. Okay.
January of 2021, we find out we are going to have a trial this year. And then later that month, the DA's office walks across the street to our lawyer and says, hey, we want to offer a deal. He can take aggravated manslaughter, no prison time, 5 years probation. And Ben was like, no, I'm not taking that. I didn't commit murder and I didn't commit aggravated manslaughter. And it's still a felony. Like, I'm not a felon. I did what I was supposed to do. I was already cleared. I'm not taking it. So,
what's the gist of aggravated manslaughter in Alabama?
Recklessness. Okay. You kill someone recklessly.
Okay.
The only thing that was reckless was fucking dumb putting her face in the door.
Right.
Okay.
So we go to trial the week of May 3rd, 2021. And the judge decides it's going to be a closed courtroom, which is a Sixth Amendment violation. No one's allowed in. It's just going to be the DA's office and then Ben and his legal team and the jury and the bailiff and the judge and the court reporter. That's it. So they open up a room for us, the public, to look, and then a separate room for the public and a separate room for the media.
So we have neither a speedy trial nor a public one.
No. Okay. So yeah, the incident was in 2018. We didn't go to trial until 2021. So 3 years after the fact.
Jeez.
Which George Floyd happened. Okay. So now you've got everyone has the anti-police even more so because of George Floyd.
Right. I was part of a case where I was in a federal lawsuit with like 15 charges brought against me, and the judge's opinion in like a pretrial thing quoted stuff from Michael Brown's case, which happened like 4 years after my incident. So reading current cases into past cases is a terrible, terrible legal practice. This judge should be ashamed of herself for ever bringing George Floyd up at all in this.
So she, and then the DA's office, I guess right before they had the trial, the lawyers all got together and the DA's office requested that it is a closed trial because they don't want uniformed police to intimidate the jury by being present in the courtroom, or for anyone else to be on Ben's side of the room to intimidate the jury. So she says, perfect. Yeah, we'll just close it. So
what's his DA's name?
Rob Broussard.
Rob?
Rob. Mm-hmm. Like Robert. Rob Broussard.
Does, I don't know. Is it...
What are you trying to find a picture of him?
No, I just go scorched earth on him on social media later.
Jeez.
Funsies.
All right, so
what a piece of shit.
So Monday they have the jury selection, which is usually open to the public as well. I'm not allowed to go. No one's allowed to go besides Ben. So during jury selection, the DA's office, Tim Gann, who's the chief prosecutor in the case,
who is also on the review board that cleared him.
Correct.
Okay.
But I don't understand. It's like, how is having your wife and your mom and your dad, who's sat in almost every corner of any criminal known to man, I've never seen this happen in my entire life. Like, I get not having uniform officers there to intimidate the jury. Fuck, dude, I've had gang members come in and wear gang colors.
Right.
And shit like that. But I mean, to not have, and one, it's really hard, very difficult to convince the judge that there is uncooperating witnesses because of the gang member sitting in the courtroom. It takes a very special judge to finally be like, all right, y'all bitches can't come back tomorrow wearing those colors. So this judge, one, couldn't say it's reasonable that the wife wants to sit there. It's reasonable that the mom wants to sit there. And if the cops want to show up, they can't wear their fucking uniforms. Or just say no cops, like just wife and kids. But like to have nobody sitting in that dude's corner.
Right, because they wanted to make the
very
appearance that he
bad.
had no support.
Yeah.
When from the get-go he did. He had the city backed him, the department backed him.
Dude, were you guys out of the courthouse just fucking protesting like a motherfucker?
So I stayed.
Like doing the whole, remember when OJ Simpson was out there and everybody was like, let him go, let him go.
So his parents and I were at the main station with command staff. Just because, I mean, what were we supposed to do? We
But
could
you
go
were
outside.
you were watching like on Zoom or something?
The trial, yes. The jury selection, no. The
Oh, so
jury
you
selection,
had no you
had
you
nothing.
saw nothing of the jury trial or the jury selection whatsoever.
Correct. I'm just,
Wow.
this is just Ben, like at lunch, we saw Ben for an hour and he told us how it was going. And then at 4:00, when they got done on the drive home, he told us what happened. But it was all based off of his account because he was allowed to be there, but no one else was.
Jeez. Okay.
So during jury selection, Tim Gann gets up there and he says, how many of you guys think there's a war on cops? And Ben said that there was a lady sitting in front of him and was like looking at him like, this guy, there's a war on him because we're here right now. You know, she was making those motions towards Ben. And Ben said, everyone raised their hand. Yes, there's a war on cops. And then Tim Gann goes on to say, well, how many of you think it's warranted because you got bad apples like Derek Chauvin and Ben Darby, who are cops out here? Derek Chauvin and Ben Darby are not the same at all. The only thing that relates them is they're both cops. That's it. They're both police officers.
That shouldn't even be allowed in the
No,
courtroom.
and the judge allowed it.
Another case being read into that case shouldn't be allowed.
No, and the judge allowed that to go forward.
What's
She didn't
wrong
like,
with our
hey,
fucking
forget what
country?
you just heard or anything like that. She just said nothing. And then and Ben said everyone just looked around the room like, what is going on right now? Like,
Yeah.
you know.
What a fucking train wreck.
So they're already, even before trial.
I mean, this is like so stereotypical. This is like when I think of Alabama, like I don't know why I'm so shocked. I just got to keep telling myself it's Alabama. It's Alabama.
Mm-hmm. So before we even get to trial, the DA's office is planning the deception of Ben Darby's a horrible person. No one is there to support him, and he's just like Derek Chauvin. So they end jury selection. They strike a jury, and we get home that night. And I said, "Well, how do you feel about who they picked?" And he said, "I feel pretty good about it. It's a good mixture." And there's actually people part of the selection that he thought they would have picked, that he thought that the DA's office would have wanted, and the DA's office struck them off. So he thought going into it, okay, I think it's going to be decent at least. So Tuesday starts the trial. We go to the courthouse into this big COVID safe room, and you're not allowed to be on your phone or anything, but there's a camera and it's a Zoom feed. So you have video and audio of the witness box itself, not the entire courtroom.
Is there any attempts at all from your defense team to say, we don't want a trial yet until we have a public trial? We don't want it. Was there any motions to delay this until there could be a public trial versus doing the whole closed courtroom under the gag order thing?
Not to my knowledge, and I think it was because we're already 3 years after the fact now.
Jeez, yeah.
Let's, this should have already gone to court, and we should have already been gone.
Right. Yes. The right to a speedy trial.
Right. His right to a speedy trial was totally thrown out the window. And so
Yeah.
I think from our legal perspective, it was, let's just go ahead and
Okay.
go, because we're 3 years down the road. So trial starts and they do opening arguments. And again, they're just, Ben Darby's a murderer. He's a horrible person, blah, blah, blah. And they start into witnesses, and one of the neighbors of Jeff Parker had come forward after the shooting to our legal team and said, hey, there's some things that you guys need to know about Jeff. And so he had an interview with our legal team and went on to tell of several direct conversations that the neighbor and Jeff Parker had, and how Jeff Parker told the neighbor that he hated cops, that he was a white supremacist, that he went to prison and became a white supremacist in North Alabama prison, and that he had a plan to lure cops to come into his house and kill them. And so we go to use him as a witness because it's not hearsay, it's a direct testimony account. Okay. Right. And so he gets sworn in, tells them who he is, and then our lawyers say, what did Jeff Parker tell you about how he felt about police?
Hearsay.
And the neighbor goes on to say, he told me that he hated cops. And then the prosecutors, objection, that's hearsay. He can't say that. And court stops. And so we're looking at the screen, and then all of a sudden it goes black and the sound goes off.
Right. It's normal.
And so because we didn't know what was going on.
Yeah. So like the judge is probably going to be like, yo, scratch that. Like yada, yada, do that little
So spiel. The DA's office says he can't testify. He can't testify. All this is going to be a hearsay, and he shouldn't be allowed to testify.
But that's not the definition of hearsay.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. So, but they say it's hearsay, and the judge says, well, she asked the neighbor, well, how long ago from the time of the incident to the time of him telling you, how long was that time frame? And the neighbor had those conversations with him about a year prior. And the judge said, well, he may not have been in that same mindset. So you can tell it to the court record, but you're not allowed to tell it to the jury. And while they're deliberating and all this, the jury gets sent out.
Yeah.
So the jury has no idea what the neighbor says. So the neighbor is allowed to speak to the court record and say his testimony. And then the screen turns back after like 10 minutes. I mean, and we're in this other room on a separate floor. So we're nowhere near where the trial is taking place. And we don't know what's going on, And then all of a sudden the screen turns back on, and there's a uniformed police officer talking about tattoos on the stand. So that officer goes on to say he was a gang specialist, or he worked for the gang unit, and he was saying he was identifying tattoos on Parker's body and how they were affiliated with white supremacy.
What tattoos did he have on his body?
He had a tattoo. I think it was on his chest. It was a white supremacy symbol.
Oh, you're talking about of Jeff?
Of Jeff.
Parker.
Yeah. Of Jeff Parker.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. So, but you're now the public trial part again, the Sixth Amendment issue of the trial. Mm-hmm. Now you're cut out. The public is cut out from what the rest of this testimony on the record is. The jury doesn't. So this judge is allowing the neighbor's words and statements to go on the record, but not to the jury.
Correct.
So it'll be on the record, but has no impact on the jury's perception of the case.
Right. So if it went to an appeal, which is where we're at now, these appeal judges can see and read what the neighbor has to say.
Thank God for that.
Yeah, absolutely. But the jury of 12 he's being judged by, they're not allowed to hear it.
Yeah, it's fucking wild, dude.
Mm-hmm.
So where do you go now? Like what? I don't know.
Keep us moving through the trial.
Yeah. So we didn't know what happened. So we go through the trial some more, and then I don't know if it was that day or the next day, but Jason gets up there. Jason Moore from the Action versus Reaction, he comes in to testify. And Ben said that when Jason walked into the courtroom, the DA and Tim Gann and Tim Douthit, the other assistant, they look at him, and then they look back at each other, and they say, he cannot testify. Ben hears the DA's office side, the prosecution side, say those words. Jason cannot testify. So
why though? What's the reasoning there?
Because Jason's incident directly speaks to what Ben did.
So they can talk about Derek Chauvin's incident, but they can't talk about...
Right. Okay. So Jason gets on the stand, and when I see Jason on the stand, I'm like, oh, this is good. This is a good thing. We need Jason on the stand. Now he can say what Ben did, why it's relevant, And so Jason gets on the stand, he gets sworn in, and then Tim Gann says, Judge, we need a recess. We need to talk to you. Screen gets turned off. Audio gets turned off. There's like a 10 or 15 minute break. Screen gets turned back on. Audio gets turned back on. Jason's on the stand.
And what what happened that's on the record to say why he wasn't there anymore.
So same situation. They said that Jason, they said his testimony spoke to the ultimate issue in that he cannot testify to that. So he was allowed to speak to the court record again, so that if and when and now that it is gone to the appeal courts, they can hear what he said. But the jury that's going to make the ultimate decision as to whether Ben's going to go to prison for murder or not, they're not allowed to hear it.
Where did this judge get? Who is the judge?
Well, he's just a real liberal fuck that's, feeding at the hands of the city manager of Huntsville, being a large fucking city. And he doesn't want to, he's not going to get involved. He's going to get his hands wet and taking the cops back in the era of Derek Chauvin, or he's not going to get voted in as a judge again. So he's just another political cunt that is just going to sit there and pretend like he gives two shits about justice.
Who is the judge?
So her name is actually Donna Pate, and she was a school board judge. So she was not elected. She was, whoever was held that judgeship retired, and she was appointed into fill the rest of that term. But Ben's case was her first criminal case that she presided over.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right, so Jason's testimony is not allowed, but is not allowed in front of the jury, but he's able to speak to the record. Again, thank God, so that helps your appeal.
Right.
So moving forward, how does the defense try to bring up things like, I don't know, right off the top of my head, Tennessee versus Garner, or other relevant case law, or there's that. And wasn't it in Alabama the mall shooting where somebody shot and they didn't even shoot the right guy? It was the wrong guy.
Yep.
And I mean, these relevant cases.
Yeah. So evidence that Ben did not have to go through remedial training, and the other two did. That was not allowed in.
Jeez, that's like, oh my God.
The training that he received from the FBI survival school was not allowed in. Like, that itself was not allowed in. The instructor was allowed to testify, but he had a.
I mean, it sounds like they'd already made up their mind that this guy was going to fucking lose because they're going to save the city. I mean, this was a conversation that's way above your means. They were like, we're going to set this shit up. We're not going to have our city burned to the ground. We're all getting reelected on this. Fuck everything that he's got to say, and we'll just let this motherfucker burn.
Right, because when George Floyd happened, Huntsville took a hard stand, and they used force against protesters. So that happened. That all happened before his trial too. So
dude, every cop in that fucking department should get the fuck out.
So when the judge goes to charge the jury with jury instructions, Graham versus Connor was not allowed. Montoute versus Carr was not allowed. Grzinski versus Palm Beach Sheriff's Office was not allowed.
Graham versus Connor wasn't allowed?
Graham versus Connor was not allowed.
Well, that's a first.
Which Graham versus Connor says in the officer does not have to wait for the beat of the gun or whatever the weapon is to be directed towards him if he feels that he is in threat, if his life is in threat of danger or another person's life is in threat of danger or seriously bodily harm. They don't have to wait.
Right.
And so Ben went off his training because everyone knows Graham versus Connor. That's like day one of police academy. You get taught that, and she doesn't allow that to the jury. They also had everyone look at Ben through the eyes of Piggies and not as an objectively reasonable officer. So they only looked at it through, well, she didn't think she was in danger, so she's okay. And I'm pretty sure it's Grzinski versus Palm Beach. It's either Grzinski or the Montoute versus Carr case, where that officer ends up shooting the individual and another officer on scene doesn't perceive the same threat, but the judges rule that you have to look through the eyes of that officer that used force.
This is all common sense. This is all shit that's happening in court trials.
This is the heart of reasonable force.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So all those case laws weren't allowed to be submitted to the jury. So they weren't allowed to have that knowledge that's, those things have already happened and been decided on. All of that stuff would have exonerated Ben. He would not be in prison today.
Well, the Graham versus Connor situation applied directly to, was it Hoover, right? That shooting.
Yeah. So I'll get into that really quick. So in Thanksgiving 2018, there was an active shooter incident at the Galleria Mall it's in Hoover, Alabama, which is south of us, hour and a half. And there was officers at the mall. There's that were standing outside one of the stores, and a guy was in there, black male, shot someone. And in the frenzy of everyone hearing that and running away, the officer saw a black male with a gun running, and that officer shot and killed that male. The Attorney General, Steve Marshall, who's still our Attorney General and is up for re-election this year, said that it would be unethical for him to charge that Hoover officer because of Graham versus Connor, Montu versus Carr, Krasinski versus Palm Beach, and then Penley versus Esslinger was another case law that he showed in support of. He cannot ethically charge this officer. The officer went off of, it was a black guy with a gun. Unfortunately, it was wrong. It was the wrong black guy with a gun, but that officer, that's all that he went off of, and he shot and killed that guy. So that wasn't allowed to be introduced as well.
And that attorney general that said it would be unjust to charge that officer with murder is now going to be the attorney general that will be looking at Ben's appeal, right?
Yeah, he's currently looking at it now.
Okay.
And so I'll jump ahead of a little bit. So Ben gets convicted. We all know that. He gets sent to prison. A week after his sentencing, the attorney general is at a Back the Blue event in Huntsville. And I was told about it. And I said, well, I'm going because the attorney general is be there, and he's now going to be the prosecutor over my husband's case. So we go to the event, and we get done, and I walk over to the attorney general, and I introduce myself. I said, hi, my name is Keelin Darby. I'm a police officer at this department. My husband is former officer William Darby, who was just sentenced to 25 years in prison for doing his job. And we have these little business cards set up just for support and advocacy for people to get and hand out. So I handed him one, and he looked at it, and he looked up at me, and he said, "You're a police officer too?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I am." And Chief McMurray was standing nearby and saw that I was talking to the attorney general, and he stepped in and was like, "Oh, Attorney General, this is Keelin Darby." And so he goes on to talk about who I am, even though I had already introduced myself. And ethically, I know he can't talk to me about the case because he's now the prosecutor. But I'm not going to let that opportunity for him to see who I am and put my husband's name in his ear. I'm not going to let that go away.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to let that just slide by. So the attorney general, he looked back up at me. He said, "Well, I appreciate you introducing yourself." And then that was it. He turned away, and I left.
Yeah, well, he can't. Well, yeah, he's not going to be able to
talk
have
to me about it.
a long conversation with you or whatever. Yeah.
Right. I understand that, but I wasn't going to let that opportunity,
right,
just pass by.
Yeah, no, nor should you.
Where do we see ourselves for a appeals process? Where are we going next with this case?
So right now we're kind of stuck in a holding pattern. All the appeal paperwork has been submitted. So our appeal brief, the attorney general's reply to our brief, and then our final reply has all been submitted at the beginning of, or it was in last month.
And a lot of this documentation, if we can put that a link up, Elijah, in the description to it, standwithdarby.com, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's
so
like
if you click on go and follow
if you click on what really happened, there's a bunch of links to a bunch of documentation. You can read all of the case laws and other things that will end up. You'll see in even greater magnified detail than what we've covered. What wasn't allowed in trial. There's a 60-page document in there that painstaking detail.
Yeah, that's our initial appeal brief. If you go to our website, which you guys have on the screen, every document that we can put on there is on there, including the attorney general's decision not to charge the Hoover officer that with the same case law that we use to try to defend Ben.
Yep.
And then we also have donation link on there if people feel led. Everyone that donates, all that money goes strictly to legal fees. I don't touch it. I don't live on it, go on vacation or anything like that.
You don't get yourself a home gym where you can leave the weights unracked at will.
Yeah,
no,
right.
No.
Somebody get her a home gym.
I will say,
my gym.
I do unrack my weights every time. I just, it was in a bad spot. So,
when people are under stress, that's when their real character comes out. So if you didn't rack your weights under stress, that's,
Yeah.
That's why, like, none of this shit, like, I see all this, like, turning, like, south is when she didn't rack her weights. Like, everybody was, like, pro Ben Darby. Oh, you're not going to go to remedial training. All of a sudden, you know, this indictment comes down. She breaks down crying, doesn't rack her weights, and now everybody's out to get them.
Everything goes downhill.
See what happens?
Yep.
This is your fault.
It's my fault. So, you know, with all of that, we go into Friday. The state rests on Thursday. They deliberate for a couple hours, can't make a decision. We go into Friday. I think an hour and a half into it, we get a phone call. One of the jury members has a panic attack and has to go to the hospital. So now we have to restart deliberations with one of the alternate jury members. So right before lunch, they come forth, and we walk in there into our private room, not into the courtroom. And the judge says, they find you guilty of murder. So of course, you know, I lost it. And everyone respectfully gave me the room, and, you know, I cried and did my thing. And then a deputy came up to me. He said, I need you to come with me. And I'm lost, you know, because I just found out my husband's going to prison because he
condition
supposedly murdered someone, which doesn't fit murder, but you know, they decided that he was. And I was like, well, where are you taking me? You know, and he said, I'm taking you to him. So he took me to Ben. I was able to see him really quick, gave him a hug, and he said, everything's going to be okay. I might be able to come home tonight. Just, you know, hold on. And so then we were notified a couple hours later that someone posted his $100,000 bond.
Wow.
Yeah. Someone posted that, and he was able to come home. And, you know, that weekend we didn't do anything. We went home that night and went to bed, and that was it. We got up Sunday. We went to church just like we always do. And Monday morning, we went to the lawyer's office, and we're like, okay, well, now what? So usually sentencing happens within 4 to 6 weeks. The judge I don't know why, but she gave him 3 months. So between May and August, we asked for people to write character reference letters on his behalf to ask the judge for leniency in his sentencing. So like I had stated earlier, murder, 10-year, the minimum murder charge is time length is 10 years. When you have the weapon qualifier, it ups it to 20. So he was looking at 20 years. The DA's office goes to sentencing, which I was thankfully allowed to go to and be a part of because I was a witness. So his dad and I sat with Ben on the side, and then there was one seat left, and his mother rightfully got that seat inside the sentencing room. But the whole hallway was packed with people. We walked across the street to go to sentencing, and the street was lined with people supporting Ben, you know, wishing him luck, basically hoping and praying that the judge was going to be lenient, which we found out she wasn't. And
I'd have been in fucking Costa Rica, dude. Come on.
So
like, you get sentenced to murder. I'm like, fuck this country, dude. I'm out.
So, well, again, if he were to take the manslaughter charge, you know, that was previously afforded him, or if he were to flee, he would go back on everything that he stood for the last 3 years.
I get it, but
so we go to sentencing. He gets sentenced, and they take him away. And I just saw him for the first time this month.
How was that outside of what I could imagine it to be able to see him in person for the first time in 9 months?
It was really good to see him, obviously, because it had been 9 months. But it was weird because, like, I'm a cop visiting my husband in prison, you know. And I didn't let them know, you know, when I got there that I was a cop or anything like that, because it doesn't matter. You know, I still have to go through all the policy and procedure and checks just like everyone else does. But they rolled the door open, and I ran. Once I saw him, I took off running, and one of the guards was on the wall, and he positioned himself towards me. And then I realized, like, oh, sorry, I can't run, you know, but it's been 9 months since I've seen my wrongfully convicted husband who's sitting in, you know, at one of Alabama's worst prisons. Yes, he's in protective custody because he's a cop, or he was a cop, but it's not safe. You know, if something were to happen in there, if he had to he's already in there for the wrong reasons. If he has to defend himself for whatever reason, now he's going to catch a prison charge. So when this appeal comes back, they're going to say, oh, well, you caused a fight or you did this. So now we're going to hold you over for so many months or years because you have a prison charge now. And, he stays to himself and, he takes it a day at a time. But he's in prison. Everything's recorded. So I can't talk to him freely about support and whose podcast I'm going on. Like when I saw him last month, I went by myself and, after I hugged him and I was able to physically hug him, give him a kiss and just have that physical interaction with him. Because beforehand, I could have gone and seen him, but I would have to go through a full-blown strip search, wear a mask, and talk behind plexiglass. No thanks. Yeah. And he didn't want me to go through that either. There's no reason for me to go through a full-blown strip search and then not even be able to touch him. Like, that's excessive. Yeah. So when I sat down at the table with him and he was like, how are you doing? And I said, a lot better now, obviously. He said the same thing. And he's like, all right, tell me everything I need to know, because we weren't being recorded. So I was able to tell him the efforts that we've had with the Resiliency Project and talking on several podcasts, and then just things that we've been working on. And when I go to see him next month, there's things that I'm going to be able to tell him that we're waiting on making. We're going to have some big things coming out announcement wise. I just can't say it yet, but people are realizing the injustice that was committed to him, and they're backing us. They realize Ben was done wrong and there's been a miscarriage of justice committed against him. He shouldn't be in prison today.
If there's anything we can do, let us know. Like, what can our followers, our listeners, what can they do to be a part of the efforts?
So, obviously, if people feel led to donate, that would be much appreciated, just because we're 6 figures into his legal defense. But even just sharing and liking anything we post on social media, Instagram and Facebook is at Stand with Darby, and just sharing any podcast, sharing any post, just to get the word out, because people don't know the true story of Ben Darby because we weren't allowed to talk about it for 4 years.
Right. That's insanity, dude.
But the amount of, we had a lot of support locally, grassroots, but from when I went public, I think it was April 4th, to now, we have like 1,600 followers on Instagram. People are pissed off, and just the emails and the messages that I get, they're just mind blown. Like, why is he even in prison?
Yeah.
But he is.
Well, yeah. I get it. I it's terrible. It's a huge injustice. It's an abortion of justice.
When do you anticipate the next move from the Attorney General's office, or the next communication or step? What is the next step there in Alabama with the way the appeals process works there?
Yeah. So everything is in the court's hands. So between our legal side and the Attorney General, there's nothing more that we can do. We've asked for our oral arguments through the Court of Criminal Appeals. Whenever they decide to look at our case, they'll decide if they're going to grant us oral arguments or not. If they do grant us oral arguments, the lawyers from both sides will be able to go and talk to, it's a panel of 5 different judges, and they'll be able to talk for, I think it's an hour, of whatever points they want to, whatever they can bring up within an hour, they're going to discuss. And then those judges will decide to either deal with it at their level, which they can reverse and render him, and he would be acquitted and exonerated, and like this never happened.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously it did,
Sure.
but it would be off of his record completely. They could reverse and remand it back to a trial court. So they could reverse his conviction, and we would have to go through another trial. That's, from what we've been told, that's the most likely scenario.
Another trial?
Another trial. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And if that's the case, we're getting out of Madison County.
But would he be able to be out of custody if he's granted another trial? Would he be able to be out, or would he have to stay in during that whole next trial?
So I've been told two different things. I've been told yes, if when we get another, if we get another retrial, he would come home. Then I've been told whatever his appeal bond is, we would have to meet that. So I don't have a clear answer. I've been getting conflicting statements every time
Gotcha.
I've asked that. So yes, there's supposedly, yes, there is a chance for him to come home when we go to retrial, but then it could be conditional upon whatever the bond is that he is set, and then we would have to meet that for him to come home.
I can't be the only one wondering this question, which is, why the heck are you still a cop? Like, what in the world? Like, what keeps you doing this same job? Like I said it earlier, we could all be any cop right now on shift. We had somebody do a super chat and say somebody bought him a coffee on shift in his patrol car, so he super chatted us the money because he can't accept gratuities. So it was a pass through. Yeah. But why do you stay doing that? Where you could go to work your next shift and be in the same exact scenario with prosecutors who do the same thing to you. So yeah. What keeps you in?
So May 7th, 2021, I was like, I'm getting out. I can't do this. But I didn't want to make an emotional decision because I was very, very obviously very emotional and very every right to have that. Working in a different county that I know backs police, I have less of a fear of that happening. But the thought has crossed my mind multiple times. I still believe in policing, and we need good cops out there because unfortunately, there are bad apples, not just in policing. I mean, that can go for any, there's bad teachers, there's bad doctors, there's bad lawyers, etc. Not to toot my own horn, but I think that I do the job well enough and I serve the community the best that I can.
I mean, except when you don't put your weights back.
Yeah, except when I don't rack my rates. But yeah, I'd be lying if getting out hasn't crossed my mind, because it has. And it does probably once a week, but for now, I'll serve my department and my community to the best of my ability.
Oh man, thank you so much for coming on here. And I mean, obviously you have a warrior mindset in terms of continuing to rehash this, to explain it to another audience again. And it cannot be easy. Recognize that. And it can't be easy in this show. I mean, we try to, in our genre, be as objective as possible and throw as many things up in your face as possible to make it, devil's advocate and to be objective, because we don't want to be, we're all cops. So of course, we want to be as hard on ourselves and on our perspectives as possible. And you stepped into that. And I don't know how many other shows will mock you for not racking your weights while your husband's in prison. That's mean. And,
well, we're cops first. We're cops first. And I feel like the problem with policing is that there is a lack of shaming. And I think that's why you see a lot of people on airplanes with pajamas and Crocs. If we brought shaming back, we'd have a little bit less of that. So I'm always going to shame where shame is needed. And that's what's expected. And I feel like if you're a good training officer, then you know how to appropriately shame someone. So I'm not going to apologize for that. But if there's anything we can ever do for you, if you need help along the way, if you're feeling shitty, feel free to reach out to us. We are empathetic to your situation. And I know we make a lot of jokes. I cannot imagine what you're going through. I don't want to imagine what you're going through. And I fucking not even close to feeling what Ben is feeling right now. I can't imagine that. All I can say is I know there's got to be a greater good. There's got to be a reason for this. There's a reason why God chose you guys, and you're very strong human beings. And I really do believe that. I really feel like God has called you to do something. And I'm a believer in God. And I don't know if it'll make you feel better or not, but it's the least I feel like I can do is that, God puts us in positions because we can handle it. And obviously he sees that you can handle whatever it is, and we don't get to see the big picture, but keep the faith, whatever that faith is, just keep the faith and know, and keep that fight going. And if you need anything from us, please, send us a private message. I mean, even if it's fucking money, I mean, I don't care. Be specific, whatever it is you need, please let us know.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
We had some folks in the comments already recognize that they went to standwithdarby.com and donated what they could. So
thank you guys.
If you're going to choose between getting our new Smoke Patoes shirt or donating to Ben Darby, please donate to Ben Darby. So go that direction. I look forward to when your appeal is victorious And then you can finally tell the world that Ben is actually your brother because you are all cops in Alabama, and we know how everyone rolls in that state. Everybody, I could take a bunch of shit for being from Michigan, and Tansey's constantly saying Michigan's terrible, but I'll take number 2 worst state behind Alabama. That's fine. I thought our justice system was bad here, but Alabama just bitch slapped Michigan to, a distant second place.
Fuck Alabama. But this Tuesday, we got the Disruptors dropping audio only. It is going to be, these guys have worked extremely hard on this podcast, and it really is one of those shows that's coming out on the Failure to Stop channel that you don't want to miss. I mean, these guys are getting, they've got guests from the guy who invented the code number 187 and helped make the movie. What's
Training
the name of that movie? Training Day. They've got real disruptors. I've never seen another podcast like it. You guys all love BC Sanders. You know what kind of fire he brings, and we are so excited to launch that this Tuesday, audio only. It will not be on YouTube's for a while, so hopefully you guys tune into that. Thanks so much again for coming on, for being so honest, for putting up with our bullshit. You've got really great thick skin. Best of luck to you.
Yeah, I just thank you guys for giving me this opportunity to tell our side of the story as to what actually happened, and to your whole your outreach. Thank you guys for everyone donating and just even just liking and sharing or anything that we post on our social media. It's not a matter of if Ben comes home; it's a matter of when, and I really do think it's going to be soon.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you again.
Oh, man.
We'll see you guys next week. Stick around, Keelin, and we'll chat with you and say goodbye privately, I guess, instead of the podcast. But for all the Wolfpack listeners, we'll see you next time.